Welcome to the skating session. My name is Tony Wheeler,
And I'm Thomas Vu.
and we are here. Just finished up watching Grand Prix number two of the year, Cup of China. Stayed up all night, both nights. Both of us did. Watched all the skating.
You know what's so funny? I remember last week saying, I don't think I'm going to do this. And then I found the motivation to do it because GP France was so good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I regret my life choices right now.
step down for sure. We're gonna get into all of
Yeah.
it. Competition impressions. First of all, the judging. Let's start with that. I mean, we're going to get into
Oh,
it with all the disciplines, but
the judging
uh,
or the tech calling. I feel like these are two different things, right? Because like I think one is actually way worse than the other. And I would
yeah,
say the a general though, the officiating all around was really
yeah.
bad. Like so the first thing too, Chris is the commentator is usually really, I would say generally diplomatic, and even he was calling out how the tech panel wasn't even reviewing these really egregious under rotations
Hmm.
or wrong edge takeoffs,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, in the short program for the women and the men. And then when they started doing it, it was really inconsistent. The biggest one to me is I don't even know how else to say this, but I'm hearing like Brady's, global warming program. I just want to be like, how dare you, right? How dare you call Shaidorov's quad lutz in the short program under rotated because it's fully rotated. It's such a terrible call that even Regini calls it out.
Yeah,
And
I
this,
mean, they have like screenshots. I mean, I saw on his Instagram earlier
yeah,
today, he put it up and I think it's validated. I mean, I was curious because it looked so smooth and I even commented in real time. I'm like, wow, all his jumps so smooth. I didn't
right.
really see the under rotation. We'll talk
Because
about
it
other
wasn't there. It
skaters.
honestly
Yeah.
wasn't there, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I slowed
Yeah.
it down. There was the replay. You
Yeah.
can put it in slow-mo, right? Even, and certain video editors can help do that and fill in the frames.
Hmm.
But like, it was just that. And then even then, if you kind of have one standard that's not really something you agree with all throughout, this is not the case. It was, I feel like, a different standard for every skater,
Hmm.
especially when you looked at the calls for Grassl, and he just got
Yeah.
what, one Q in the short program?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like when everything he did in the short program to me had a rotation issue.
Should have been reviewed
So,
at least. I don't even know if
yeah.
it was all reviewed.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it seems like the case more often than not with him. I don't know why, but it's like they look the other way for him
Yeah,
sometimes.
I didn't really get that. And we can get into the judging for his jumps too, but those getting positive GOE for those combinations that have huge, obvious toe axles, I
Yeah. Yeah.
know, right? Especially then after that, they were lowballing Sato's jumps, which again,
Hmm.
great technique, landed cleanly, tight in the air, nothing really egregious about it. So,
Hmm.
but even then, that wasn't even the worst thing that happened. So I'm gonna give you props for this because you literally called it out in real time. It was Sui Han's short program, supposed group five lift, right? And
Hmm.
so Tony pointed this out to me. He was sending it to everybody he knew who was in China right now, talking to commentators, officials, coaches. And even then, there are coaches that posted about it,
Yeah.
like how bad the call was. But essentially, in the short program this year, pairs have to do a group five lift. Sui and Han are planning a reverse lasso lift, but to be a reverse lasso lift, you have to keep one hand or arm above right your shoulder in the
The
air
hand.
as you're
The hand.
lifting the partner. Oh, the hand,
Yeah.
right? As you're
Yeah,
lifting your partner.
just to be clear, it has to be clearly above the shoulder.
Clearly.
It's not one of these if it looks like it's in the same line, that's not clearly.
Hmm.
But so with them, I'm looking at them and I'm like,
Right. And it's so funny because you pointed this out to me too. I'm like, are you sure? And then even just going through the rules, it's like,
mm.
no. And if the hand is not, where it's supposed to be, it's called a group four. It literally states that in the rules.
Yeah, there's
And
like
so
a
it's
caveat to that, and it says
mhm.
specifically it is to be called a group four lift. So
And so essentially, Sway and Han should be getting 0 points for their lift in the short program because it's a
yeah,
group four when they're required to do a group five.
yeah.
And that 8.8 points, bye bye, puts them in seventh place after the short program, which is where they should have been. So I thought that was really like curious too. You could see it getting picked up on social media very quickly. Even then, other, podcasters, commentators picked up on this too. And I really doubt
Suddenly
other
became
people
experts of the
suddenly became experts in
rule
rules
book.
they've never
Yeah,
understood before. I know it's great.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but like so egregious. And then the same thing happens in the long program. The
right.
lift is done the same way. It's called a group five reverse lasso instead of a group four.
Yeah, and so the thing is, it's okay to do in the free skate. There's not really. it's
Yeah.
not going to be an invalidated element. There would obviously be a different scale of points. There would be
Hmm.
a different kind of view on what they're doing. But in the short program, if you go back to that, it should be an invalidated element because the rule this year is a group five lift. You do a group four lift, that's not within the rules. It's just like if you do a single toe loop or if the women try to do a
Right.
quad in the short program, it's not within the prescribed elements. It's not receiving a value. So 8.8 points, it's like whatever, that's what people think. But if you look at the final results after today, this is the difference between Sui Han being on the podium and finishing fourth place behind their teammates. I mean, that one element. So I really, I actually stopped watching the live skating for a few minutes because I just got so wrapped up on this. I'm like, I know I'm right. I know I'm right. So first of all, I found the rules for this year just to make sure I was correct. Then I'm like messaging people that are actually in China. I'm like, hey, can you guys like file a protest about this? And what I was told is unless it's the team that's in question and they're trying to get more points, you can no longer file on behalf of like for another team
Right.
to try to make them lose points. So it was basically a lost cause. I even went a step further and I found one of the tech panelists on Instagram and I messaged them very nicely and I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out why this was called as a level five or a group five lift because it's clearly not. And I'm just trying to understand how they kind of got away with it. Now, it happened again in the free skate, the same exact call, and I'm like, I really don't think that they know what they're looking for, honestly, because there's really no way around this. And just to make it clear what we're like saying is group four is a press lift. So you think about like bench press or anything where you're pressing straight up. Your hands go down below your shoulders and you're pressing up with your body, right? On a
Yeah.
lasso lift, you're really kind of turning, so it's okay for one of the hands to go below, but one of the other hands has to, as I said, has to clearly be above the shoulder level. And I took screenshots yesterday. I took a quick video today to show it's a press lift. And, it's in China and everybody can say, oh, it's the benefit of the doubt for China, but I don't think the tech panelists really care about that aspect.
They
I
really
mean,
don't.
me and Han finished with bronze medal. They could have gone completely overboard with them in some roundabout way, but they didn't. So I don't think it's that. I really just think that maybe they're not as nuanced in the rules as I feel like I might be, but also,
Yeah.
I went back and I looked just to see like maybe when Sui and Han were competing in 2022, maybe the rules were not the same. And sure enough, I had to go through all this Internet Archive stuff and a bunch of clicks because all the ISU links are broken now. And I finally found the rules from 2022, and it's the exact same rule. Nothing has changed since then. So they should know, which makes me think that they maybe just cannot do it yet, and they're trying to
Right.
mask it as much as they can by seeming like they're still above, but they're not. So,
And then even then though, like I can't believe none of the three on the tech panel noticed this because I've seen tech panels literally get in big
like, yeah,
arguments,
yeah,
bust out the rule book, go through all these pages that are like in these protected plastic slots. They have that book like literally right with them
hmm
and go and discuss, read down the rules, be like and discuss it, argue with each other over the call. And I doubt that happened here because the scores came up pretty quick. It didn't seem
right,
like they were having those extended
yeah,
conversations like you've seen with delayed scores where they're rewatching something again and again. I've watched tech panels watch something
yeah.
again and again and again, and that clearly didn't happen here. So collective failure, and not even just from that, collective failure from their team, collective failure from everyone who watched practices and didn't say anything.
Well, that's the thing. They all go
Or
sit
even
and watch
after
the
the short
practice.
program, no one
Yeah.
said anything to them before the long program to be like, they do this exact same lift, maybe call it correctly this time.
Yeah.
Or at that point, are you all in? Once you've called it incorrectly once, you have to continue to call it incorrectly.
I think that at first I was like, this isn't getting any buzz. No one really cares. And then it started to pick up a little bit. I saw that it was kind of being circulated in the circles that I wanted it to be, but it just seems like, yeah, the panel stuck to what they felt was the correct call and they didn't do anything about it. And I you and I both say we love reading the rule book for fun, but it shouldn't come down to what at the end of the day, it shouldn't come down to a fan telling
Right, right,
people
right.
that are literally trained in this and have to get certifications and have to make sure that they know the rules this specifically to say, hey, you have it wrong. I don't trust that the ISU always knows what's going on, but as far as the tech panelists, they really should know what they're looking for. And I mean, these lifts just have such a clear
Yeah.
definition of what has to be done that there's not a gray area. There's really not like I can see where they called. No, this is what it is, and that's They should not be the bronze medalists here. I'm sorry
They
to
should not.
say, but like
Correct.
retroactively, or they should go back and they say, "Hey, we got it wrong," but that's never going to
And they don't
happen.
do that, right? Like, and
No.
it happens in dance where there's just incorrect calls. So for example, like they always will release Q&As, right, for ice dance as the season
Yeah.
goes along. The
Yeah.
original calls stick, but they clarify it moving
hmm
forward. And my
hmm
bet is they're going to do something the same here, and they clarify this for everybody and just make sure people understand that, hey, a group 5 lift has real requirements that you need to make sure you follow.
And
Because
it's really not that many require. I mean, it is,
not
but
right, right.
going up, it's very simple. It's just the way that it goes. It literally, this is what determines what the group is. It's by the way it goes up, and you're not doing it that way. So,
Yeah.
yeah, nothing happened with it. One of the coaches actually reshared pretty quickly and then said add Tony on Instagram,
I
and I
know,
got a
right?
few I got a few really good follows out of it from people in the skating world. So I was like, well, at least there's that. But nah, I don't know what they were doing, and I don't think we're going to get. I think we won't get a Q&A. We won't get a clarification. They'll just be like, well, from our viewpoint, it seemed like his shoulder was still, or his hand was still above his shoulder, or something like that, and that'll be the end of it.
Right, until you
It's
like, show literally the frames
yeah,
where
yeah,
he's doing this. Like,
yeah.
yeah. So, it is a really frustrating competition all around. I don't know if there's anything else in terms of like impressions that you have, but like this is the thing that still sticks, just with me
Well,
now.
and I mean, in general, I feel like everybody looked kind of jet lagged or tired or just
Yeah,
over it or like 20% kind of putting no oomph into anything they were doing. And I
yeah,
felt that across the board, especially in ice dance. I felt like everybody was kind of slow. I felt like even Amber just looked for whatever
yeah.
reason
Me
over
too.
it in both
Hmm.
programs. Alyssa, we know she's had problems. We're gonna get into all of that, but we know she had problems with her boots and then she changed her programs, but she like was dying out there towards the end of her free skate.
Yeah. And
So
they
I
were
just feel.
saying the arena was really hot, so that
Yeah,
could
yeah,
like
yeah.
really explain it. And again, we're both from Florida, and I'm from, inland Florida in the middle of the woods, and so the heat does make people insane. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it had something to do with that too.
It could. It could. Let's jump right
Yeah.
into the disciplines. We're gonna start with
Yeah.
ice dance. We're just
Mhm.
gonna go in the order of what actually happened with the skating. Um, so yeah, I think this starting with the rhythm dance, let's just go into it. I think it's a huge drop off from what Grand Prix France was, and it looked on paper like it could have been much more interesting what than it was. But then you
Yeah.
have two teams kind of really take themselves out of contention right away that were looking like they could potentially be in there for medals. And then it was a surprise team that was up there at the top, and I wouldn't say again with this 90s theme, I'm just so
Big
underwhelmed across the
misses.
board.
Big
Yeah.
misses in this competition all throughout.
Yeah.
I really couldn't pinpoint a single program, maybe other than like Lim and Kwan, that even got anything 90s-esque. And that was
hmm
just their costumes even.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that. But like, yeah, so biggest thirst thing, if we're talking about, to start order here, Chock and Bates won, no surprise there. But how they won is a bit of a surprise, I would say. Maybe not after last week, but I would say, before last week, we would have thought so. And then surprise silver, Zingas and Kolesnik, which whom I thought actually skated really well. And then a surprise bronze too, Lopareva and Brissaud, right? So they
Yeah.
really benefited from the mistakes of some other teams here. But let's start with the top here. What was your impressions of Chalk and Bates?
So rhythm dance, American Woman, like this whole Lenny Kravitz medley. I don't really get dance party out of that. I'm not really concerned about that though. I mean, the rules are so meticulous. I'm kind of surprised that the ISU hasn't gone after them and said, "Oh, this is really not a dance party." But as far as the skating goes, I've always been super, super hard on them, you could say, but I feel like what I'm saying makes sense. I just feel like a lot of people don't see what I'm seeing, or they choose to not see because they really want them to be at the top of ice dance. But if you're looking at the rhythm dance, um, it was just sloppy. And the thing is, they
Yeah.
chose not to compete until this competition, and this is often what they do. I think it's always what they do. But they're going into this Olympic season with assuming they've only had feedback from like the champs camp or whatever. They really haven't had maybe as much international feedback. I don't know. As Academy Montreal, I'm sure they have people come in and out and tell them what to do as far as their programs go. But these programs just looked rough. And I know that they
Yeah.
made a comment somewhere probably after the rhythm dance, that it took them a long time to find music that they wanted to use for the program. So that was
Really?
supposedly maybe a holdup. I don't
And
know.
this is the music they picked?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, so I didn't really get this. Like maybe the costumes were kind of like in the more trashy 90s realm, which, actually really worked, right? But aside from that, I didn't get any 90s vibes or feels from the rhythm dance. It just seemed
Mhm,
like any type of typical rhythm dance they would have done.
mhm,
I don't really feel like there was great effort to truly channel that vibe of the 90s. But to me, the free dance, which I actually think is usually their strength, right? The
mhm.
rhythm dance traditionally has been their biggest weakness until the introduction of the choreo steps. But this
Yeah.
free dance to me is a huge miss in so many different ways. Um, I agree with all your criticism of the rhythm dance in general too. It felt like a lot of posing, a lot of buying time. Again, you could see that loss of speed. They weren't covering a lot of ice. Zingas and Kolesnik covered way more ice than Chock and Bates did.
Yeah.
Smoother transitions,
Yeah.
skated faster, more difficult transitions, which is a huge step up for them. I
Hmm.
can't imagine I'm saying this about Zingas and Kolesnik,
Yeah.
really, especially after last year. But the free dance is so just a huge miss. So first, I don't see what is. I keep hearing whether it's supposed to be a paso doble or a flamenco inspired free dance. Regardless, it misses the mark in both, right? I don't feel like they're interpreting the whole matador bull fighting
Hmm.
until maybe the last minute of the
Hmm.
program.
Hmm.
And then it's just, oh, look, our fingers are horns. Oh,
Hmm.
look, he's the bull. Look, he's on the ground and I've dominated the bull. Like, and that's
Hmm.
it. The first half of the program, there's nothing really going on, in my opinion. The only big moment to me that I actually really enjoyed was the curve combination lift. But other than that, it's like small patterns, almost every single element, and then the twizzles, which you really honed in on. They were exceptionally bad, and this is a element for them that, in my opinion, has regressed the past few years.
Hmm.
It's gotten worse and worse, and you saw it here to where in that second set, after two rotations, Madison just stops moving forward on the ice. She essentially just stays in place, and the panel actually called it out and they only gave her level two because once she stops moving forward, those rotations don't count anymore. And so that was surprising that they actually called it. And I was surprised they actually gave Evan credit for the Group C feature for that third set of
Yeah,
twizzles
for that
because to
third twizzle.
me,
Yeah. Yeah.
he checked the twizzle. It was
Yep.
off balance. He should be level three. And then you saw this too. Their score is only 123.91. They lost
Hmm.
the element score to two teams, Zingas and Kolesnik and Smart and Dieck.
Hmm.
That's not what they want to
Well,
see.
I mean, between both programs, I mean, there were a lot of problems. You go back to the
Yeah.
rhythm dance, you look at the for some reason the midline in the rhythm dance and then the diagonal step in the free dance both look so sticky and slow and like clumsy almost and like just
Yeah.
not finished. I have no doubt that they're going to clean it up and it's just not 100% yet, but you're showing up to competition and that's what you get judged on. So this is what they're showing. I also thought in the rhythm dance in their lift, I felt like she was a little awkward coming out of it. Like her free foot kind of hitched forward a little bit on when she was set down on the ice, and that's these are just the little things. Like you look again, the twizzles. I'm always going to say the twizzles. What happened in the free dance, I feel like that should happen almost all the time. To be real, I've
Yeah.
been I've been saying this for 3 or 4 years now. Like you look at the entire field and these twizzles get the least amount of speed, the least amount of distance probably of almost any team in any competition they're in. Really, it's to that level. But they're
Yeah.
handed you see in the rhythm dance they're handed majority +4. But then another lesser team, and you can say they're not doing anything that difficult or nuanced
They're
within the
not.
Twizzles where you can say, oh well, the difficulty is what's doing it. It's no, it's just she's very even on her dominant side on that first set, she really starts to slow down towards the end, and I feel like that last rotation is typically done in place. Second set is a whole different, like you said, after two rotations, that she's kind of going nowhere. It was finally called in the free dance. I feel like it's been the story of their lives forever. I think this isn't even going to be a wake-up call because I think this was just the
And you
panel
just,
doing the most, but
yeah.
I think they're just gonna the next competition they're gonna look away and it's gonna be back to +4 and it is what it is. But for me, it's just not a great element, and I think it should be scored accordingly. But one thing I do want to say though, between both programs, they looked so underprepared. They did not look smooth. They covered barely any ice. They were not fast. And all these criticisms that I'm talking about, if I remember correctly, last week, this is what people are saying as an argument for why Guignard and Fabry should now have these PCS that went from 9.25, 9.5 maybe to now an 8 or an 8.25, and it's justified because over the summer they've clearly regressed so much in skating skills. I'll tell you, like as bad as Guignard and Fabri's rhythm dance was, I felt like their free dance, they showed a lot better overall skating
Yeah.
skill than what Chock and Bates showed here. But Chock and Bates, are throwing 9.5s and even a 9.75 somewhere. And it's like, well, whatever, later in the season they'll be better, but right now they're a little sloppy, but it'll get better. That being said, I'm very surprised actually at the free dance score. As far
Me
as
too.
the free dance for me, I don't hate the idea of it. I'll say that. And this is
Yeah,
the
the
first.
concept is great.
Yeah,
I actually like the
yeah,
concept of what they're trying to
yeah.
do. It's
I
just
like
they
the
don't execute.
music. I just don't think I think the program is just choreographed so weird. I feel like that diagonal step being so late in the program is kind of weird too because it's just so right now it's so bad,
Whoa.
like uh
And here's the thing
so
though too, like I actually love this track, from
yeah,
Westworld. But
yeah.
here's the problem: if you've actually watched Westworld and you've seen how this version of Painted Black is used, they're just not really kind of channeling that same dynamism. And
Hmm.
I was just listening to it, before I watched the program, and
Hmm.
I was like, oh wow, this could work. This could work in a lot of
Yeah.
different ways, right? And especially with the intensity, and especially if the choreography is matching the intensity, and it really wasn't. You could see to where there was this kind of like chase that they could have put in there that they really
Yeah.
didn't. Um, so right now, yeah, it's a miss. I feel like there's a lot to improve in terms of the actual program itself. And again, if you're thinking that, just months ago, these were probably the conventional Olympic gold medal favorites, it's not great how underprepared they look and how
Hmm.
bad the program and incomplete it looks when we just saw Fournier, Baudry, and Cizeron basically perform a masterpiece
Hmm.
a week ago,
And
So
that's yeah. Just
yeah,
along those lines though, Fournier, Baudry, and Cicerone are light years ahead of
light
Chalk and
years.
Bates. I mean, there is no I understand that people are very upset that it looked like Chalk and Bates were going to steamroll through this entire Olympic cycle and the Olympics were theirs to take, and now there's this thing in the way called Fournier, Baudry, and Cicerone. But the fact of the matter is, whether they've skated together for less than a year or they've been together for 10 years, their free dance especially is a moment. Everything is
Yeah.
choreographed so perfectly to the music and everything is just such top quality. To get these higher GOEs in dance, it's a big part of it is matching the music. It's a big part of it is just these criteria that are more so, does it match the ups and downs of the music? Does it flow in and out? They're doing everything that they need to do to get these top scores. Madison and Evan, on the other hand, I mean, as like what I saw so far, it's
Yeah.
very choppy. It's choppy, and there's reason to give them the +2 and the +1 and the +3 instead of going +4 and +5, which they're accustomed to, and I don't always agree with.
Yeah.
In the free dance, the very first element, the assisted jumps, that got the exclamation point. So because of that, you have to reduce the GOE by 2. So what ended up happening is they got +1 and +2 across the board for that element. So they lost a little bit of points there. And then they also, like we said, she got the level 2 on the Twizzles, which we're assuming, which would make perfect sense that she stopped moving on that second set. She stayed in place. So then you stop counting the features at that point, so she would get a level 2 for that. And they're still getting +4 for that, which I don't know how from some of the judges. And
Well, it
then
covers no ice, right?
yeah, and then
Straight line lift.
straight line lift also, yeah, level 2. So and you want to talk a little bit about why you
Yeah. Okay.
think.
So essentially, it's a count to four rule, right? And the only thing that you have to make sure that happens is either the lifted partner or the lifting partner is in a difficult position for 3 seconds, and then you can have the rest of those three features come from entry and exit features. Sometimes you can have two entry or exit features because one's per partner, sometimes they're combined, right? And so I only saw two total features here, right? So Evan's in that lunge position when they enter the lift. So that's the entry feature for him. She's just more or less just hanging out. He's holding her, right? She's has her boot a little bit and the blade on the ground before she lifts it. And so he's then in a difficult position for the lift. So those are the two features. They're attempting a difficult position for her in that she's horizontal, right? And that's a difficult position as long as the only other supported part is the leg, of which she's
Hmm.
holding the leg from behind. So you
Hmm.
see that too. The problem is she doesn't hold that position for three whole seconds. He starts pulling her up right under the 3 seconds, so it doesn't count.
Hmm.
But here's the problem with the design of this element for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I only even see three intentional features, at least in my opinion, because there's no exit feature.
For
The
him.
exit feature they're going through for is that creative or intricate, movement after. But both
Hmm.
partners have to do it. And I see
Hmm.
that she does it, she's low, she's on her knee, he's pulling while she's sliding, but he's
Hmm.
not doing anything creative or intricate.
Hmm.
So the exit feature doesn't even count. So if they had done something different on the exit, they could have gotten level 3 on the lift.
Yeah.
Um, and so they definitely need to rework that exit. Again, it just feels like poor element design, which is strange for IAM. They're usually a lot more on top of things like this. Yeah, that was like the biggest thing that I saw. I'm just like, oh, no, like, what are they doing? Yeah, but other than that, like, another thing I noticed here for just talking about GOE, they only got four fives, which for a three-time world champion team, who's trying to win Olympic gold, that's not great. And
Hmm.
those four fives came from three judges, all three of whom did not place them first in the free dance.
Yeah, I noticed that part. Yeah.
And no fives in the rhythm dance, which very appropriate, right?
Hmm.
Not even for the choreo step. And so this is some worrying, troubling signs. Like I already feel that little bit of judges aren't seeing them way up here anymore. They're like down here now. They're in that right below the top.
I don't know about that because the thing is, if you look at their for the way they skated, I think their PCS is outlandish, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
You have mostly 9.5, 9.7, you have one, two 9.75s in presentation. The composition, which I think is so sloppy, and I think they really need to reconsider maybe the element order or just the flow of the program. They're still scoring majority 9.5 there with this. So I think maybe a different panel, maybe as they gain momentum, they get more comfortable with the programs, you'll see the increase in the GOEs. But I just, if we're looking head to head with Fournier, Baudry, and Cizeron, I don't see
Yeah,
how this material or their ability as skaters, as they've shown at least for the last 4 years, there's not a way for them to be able to catch up. It's just
yeah.
how it is.
Yeah, I think the Grand Prix final will be extra telling, like you were saying last week.
Mhm.
One correction again, they got 1-5 in the rhythm dance from the Spanish judge for the choreo step. Just again, a lot of worrying signs. I know people were talking about her outfit and her skirt, and I can understand the criticisms, but that really isn't what bothered me. I honestly barely noticed it in the program myself.
I
It was
noticed it a
mostly
few
just
times.
cellular
It was
issues.
kind of in the way. Like it sometimes it was just like maybe they're trying to mask some things. I don't know, but I do think that it was a little bit much. I
Yeah,
don't. I expect that they'll come back with something kind of equally as flashy. Maybe the top will change or whatever. I'm not really ever concerned about costumes, but I did notice a few times it was kind of
same.
blocking what was really going on, and that's it. But yeah, I'm just underwhelmed. I want to like their free dance because, like I said, this is the first free dance where I'm like, oh, with some time on it and with some changes, I could see myself liking it. But I just feel like
Same, especially if the last two seasons were such big misses, in my opinion, in terms of their free dances. They were just like not great. I don't remember anything about them other than the music choices,
Mhm.
right? Or and they did like a clock lift. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's it. Literally 2 years worth of free dances for them, and
Hmm.
that's all I remember. Whereas I loved their material, for the Olympics and right before that. Even their Elvis program was better. But anyway, anything else?
No,
Observations?
I think that's it.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that the Twizzles get scrutinized like they were here every single time because like I said, I've focused in on this so much and I feel like this is my redemption to say, well, at least somebody else realized it, This is I just feel like it's never a +4 or +5 element. I think maybe a +2, +3 should be their max just because she does basically stop. And by default he almost does too. It's not that it's just a
right.
her problem, but I think that because she has the lack of flow, he's following suit, and then because of that, you should judge the GOE appropriately. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's enough. We can't focus on them for
I
45
know, right,
minutes. So
right. 20
let's
minutes later.
yeah, yeah,
So surprise silver, Zingas and Kolesnik, but really deserved here, actually, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
Again, I'm surprised I'm saying this, but they've made a lot of improvements as a team.
yeah, yeah.
The skating closer together, there's transitions in the program. Oh, wow, right? Everything's a lot smoother. The elements of much better quality, especially her in the 1 foot step.
Hmm.
In the free dance, whereas like last year she was wobbling all
Hmm.
over the place, nearly every competition. Whereas here, like, no, wow, that was really smooth. It was controlled. again, it's a low bar, but I think they had the best rhythm dance in this competition. The most 90s, even if to me it was kind of like high school, maybe affluent upper middle class hip hop, but
Yeah.
because I really didn't really get what they were doing,
Hmm.
but the element quality was good.
Hmm.
I don't know what
I
you think.
think, yeah, I mean, I think that this team has a big following. I think a lot of the American teams have big followings and people are very passionate about them.
Yeah.
And this is kind of why, the Shibutani's coming back is kind of wrecking everyone, and everyone has
Mhm.
a favorite that they want in the Olympic team. This team, I think that they were always hyped a little bit higher, or actually a lot higher than what their skills were. And unfortunately, she was a newer ice dancer, so it really came down on her most of the time. I think that their programs were more flashy than substance. I know a lot of people raved about their free dance last year, and I was
Yeah,
just
no.
kind of like, ah, it's nice, but it's not what I'm seeing, what other people are seeing. But this year, I will say, rhythm dance, whatever. I mean, they were using. I heard these are not their outfits. They had to put together outfits really quickly.
Oh,
Like
really?
yeah,
That explains the all black
yeah, but then the
training
free
outfits. Yeah.
dance, I liked the free dance quite a bit. I think that they're using her flexibility and her good extensions to the
Yeah.
best of what they can, and they're holding. I noticed on the individual elements, the twizzles and the 1 foot step, they
Mhm.
kind of hold it at the end to create that picture and show the control that they have. And like you said, the 1 foot steps for her look so much better. Um, I'm pretty impressed literally with everything. The assist jumps
Yeah.
I really liked. I think that they're really gunning for a spot on the team, and with we can just jump into Green and Parsons here because there's really not a whole lot to say. They had the big issue in the rhythm dance. They ended up withdrawing from the free dance. He was in the hospital yesterday. Don't really know what the status was, if he had like a bruised bone or whatever, but they got on the ice. It looked like they were going to try to skate, but after the warm up, their names were called, they decided to withdraw. I think that kind of effectively shuts the door on them as
I
far as the
agree.
Olympics goes, unfortunately, because now you have a team that finished with a silver medal, and they're potentially making the Grand Prix final depending on how their other event goes. And that's
Hmm.
going to go far in the eyes of the U.S. the selection committee, because if they continue to get scores that are high from panels across events, then there's really, you can't put that
And
down.
internationally, I would say Zingas and Kolesnik, probably in the eyes of the judges, are the better team.
Hmm.
Now for sure. I feel like Green and Parsons were kind of always up and down the last few seasons, but always solidly behind Carrera and Ponomarenko, and then kind of just in that mix of everyone trying to overtake Carrera and Ponomarenko.
Yeah.
Um, but here, no, it was such a strong skate. My favorite thing was the I think choreographic assisted jumps. Even
Yeah, that's
like
what.
that was like
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool. It was really great control in them. I, another moment for me was that rotational lift, and at first I was just like, "Why is he slowing down?" I'm like, "Oh, now it's a stationary lift." And then the exit
yeah.
was really smooth. It was just
Hmm.
great control. The only problem I had was in the step sequence is that they didn't really get a lot of coverage. They didn't really fill the rink. They started so far away from the boards, and then maybe this is like a preference in terms of like style, but you're saying they were doing such a great job of showing off her lines and how, oh, here's my long leg, here's my toe point. But then like right after they would go into this kind of like weird Benoit angular choreography or
Well, yeah,
positions, and I'm like,
yeah.
oh, why? What's with this
Hmm.
contrast? I don't get that.
Hmm.
Like, but otherwise, I thought it was really good. Maybe just smooth some of it out, remove some of this angular choreography, like in the beginning of the choreographic steps. Because again, it goes from something really nice and elegant and cool to now this really angular, and I didn't get it. But
And listen, they're a team that has never made the world team in the US, and they're less than 2 points behind the three-time world champions in the free dance.
and my
That's
bet is that changes this year. We'll see.
mm-hmm.
They look world championship competition ready to me. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I never thought I'd be saying that. Hmm?
Lopareva Brissaud. So we talked about this as soon as we finished our world's review, saying, we felt like they were kind of dumped there. It was not their best competition. It wasn't that, it was just that. But we feel like Fournier, Baudry, and Cicerone announced that they're coming back, and or they're a new team that's coming back for the 2026 Olympics. And we're thinking, oh, this is going to see the pushing down of this team, who was making their way up as far as Europeans go. They were on the podium there, like making the Grand Prix final. They're a top team, right? And then we see kind of the chipping away at the scores. We see the chipping away at the scores. We thought it was going to be really telling this season to see how they were scored, if they were going to even hold on for that second spot in France, because even that was maybe, they could push
Right.
another team up into that second spot. So I almost by default here they're on the podium, and I guess I'm grateful for that because I don't want them to completely fall off the trajectory. Like I referenced them before, but there was a team in '98, Monial and Lavanchi, who were like fourth in the world in '97, had injuries, but in '98 they're outside the top 10 in the Olympics. Like this kind of stuff does not happen, and I felt like we might have seen that. We might still see that with Lopareva Brissaud. Now, that being said, I am a huge fan of this team. I've loved I mean, I think I've loved every program they've had in the last two seasons. I'm not so hot. Well, okay, I'm not so hot about any of the rhythm dances this year, but I'm really not that. They had such a good rhythm dance 2 years ago. I think it was the standout rhythm dance. Um, and even last year, very, very good. This year, I'm just kind of like, it's fun music. It's Blue by Eiffel 65, and then it's Daft Punk music, which I love,
Right.
but for me, it just looked like so choppy, and a lot of posing. I feel like this is kind of an
Yeah.
extension of the exhibition that they've had for a few years, like that mad scientist thing they do in the white lab coats. It just felt like kind of an extension of that, and I wasn't like overwhelmed by it. How did you feel?
Uh, I generally agree with everything you just said. And for me too, the biggest mismatch was just I don't feel like they're interpreting Blue at all. I feel like the
Yeah.
whole interpretation and performance is based on Daft Punk
Hmm.
and Around the World, right? And what they end with.
Hmm.
But just listen to the lyrics of Blue. They're sitting there grinning and they're smiling, and I'm like,
And they're
oh.
in red.
And they're in red, right? And
Yeah.
they're in red. So there's
Yeah.
even that too. I'm just like, can you just even just dress on theme, please? Um, but yeah, I agree too with the posing. Like, is there better than that?
Hmm.
And I feel like they really could have gone a different vibe, especially if they're just gonna have Daft Punk. There were a lot of Daft Punk songs where they could have
Hmm.
gone really into this robotic kind of
Hmm.
like maybe almost like a version two of a type of program they've done before.
Yeah.
But athletically, I thought it was good. Just the program construction and conception and execution to me just isn't the best for this rhythm dance.
Yeah. And then the free dance, so I was intrigued by it. I thought, wow, I'm gonna really like this. I will say I think that Ice Academy Montreal has come up with some really cool openings for the free dances this year. Fear and Gibson, I think they have a great opening to their free dance. I think that this team as well, it's so cool.
Yeah.
But just I like I said, everyone was at like 20% speed, I feel like, throughout this competition, and I especially saw it with them. I really thought they were crawling through the majority of both programs. Um, Twizzles looked rough in the free dance, and then we get to this change of music, and what do you know? It's like this Amber Glen. This music is all over the place all of a sudden, and I don't understand how it became as popular as it did. It just made me not really get the program or the vibes that I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just very ordinary and pleasant, and they're a team that can go so weird and kind of quirky and kooky, and I was hoping for more of that, and I just felt like the ice coverage wasn't there. I understand like it's early season and no one wants to peak until February. That's what people are going to say, but half speed, half done everything. I felt
Yeah.
like.
There were some great moments though that I think really show off how skilled they really are though. And the one that sticks out to me is at the end of their step sequence to where like he's ending on a twizzle and she does this
Oh
backwards
yeah,
just
yeah,
curves around
around,
him,
yeah,
just
around
showing
him.
off how good her skating skills is.
Yeah.
And my thought was like, oh wow, Madison Chalk could never. You know?
I did notice that though, and I thought that was one of the cool moments of the
Super
program.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so subtle, right? But like they really do show off how equal they are as like skating partners. And that's
Hmm.
more always been kind of rare in ice dance, really, actually.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, any other things that you noticed?
No, I really like them, and I wish it was a little bit more weird.
Me too. Yeah, it's too
I
normal.
do think that they're just gonna see us sinking down the rankings. I think, they were very lucky here that Smart and Dieck had the huge mistake in the rhythm dance that we're about to get into. Um, because I don't think they would have been on the podium here. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have been.
Oh yeah,
So
of course not. They would not have been.
yeah, yeah.
Smart and
So
Deke lost a lot of points on
they
that
are,
rhythm
yeah,
dance.
they're potentially in the picture, I guess, for the Grand Prix final. Most likely not. I hope to see stronger skating in the next event for them. but I'm left kind of indifferent, and I've been so like pro everything about them for the last few years that it's kind of difficult for me because I'm like, eh. Okay, so let's go on to Smart and Dieck. They finished fourth here. Would have been on the podium for sure, probably fighting for the, I would say maybe in there for the silver medal potentially. I don't know. Their rhythm dances are kind of always questionable, but it's the free dance where they make up room.
Yeah.
Rhythm dance is George Michael, and let me entertain you. Okay, Robbie Williams, this was used. So, I put up a lot of videos in my free time from like the 90s and the 2000s, and Todd Eldridge skated to this, and it's as bad as you would imagine, just so like whatever. And then I remember Hanyu skated a short program to this too, and I hated it.
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
know what it is about that song, but I just don't like it. It's for Hanyu, it's like there's a line about shaking his ass, and he did literal choreography of shaking his ass. It just looks so cheesy all around. And so, anyways, when I see this, I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna like it. I was not. Again, it's like a broken record for me today, but I wasn't overwhelmed by anything that I saw in the program. I liked their
Yeah.
outfits. She always knows how to dress. He looked really good too. I think that whatever vibe they were going for, I don't know that was exactly all the way 90s, but whatever vibe they were going for, they looked really good. But I think a lot of their weaknesses cannot be masked in the rhythm dances as much as they can in the
Mhm.
free dance.
And even
And
then, though, they made a lot of unforced errors
yeah,
despite their rhythm
yeah,
dance weakness. The first set twizzles just out of sync, not fast,
way off. Yeah,
almost no ice coverage, and they're
yeah.
usually better than that. And then her stumble while on
Patterns.
her
Well,
knees
yeah.
in the hmm?
Yeah, she was. It was like a. He was like a. It was basically a slide movement that was
Yeah,
assisted because he
in the
was
partial
holding her, but she had that trip, and because of that, it sends the level way down, and it sends the GOE into negative. So they
because the
lost
fall,
major points there. Yeah, exactly. So
right?
same. I mean, they're losing probably. I don't know how much they ended up with, but I would say they probably lose
They
about
got
8 points.
4.26 points, and usually teams like of this caliber are aiming for 10 plus, right?
Yeah, so at
So
least
just the
six.
loss of
Okay.
those six-ish
Yeah,
points is a lot.
and the 1 point for
And
the
the
fall.
seven, yeah, so
So
7 points
yeah,
for the
yeah,
fall, including the
yeah.
fall, right? And that probably would
So.
have gotten them what they wanted.
Yeah, yeah. So then free dance, I should have watched this. They've competed already this year, I believe. I don't know. I
Yes,
think they
they
have.
have.
Yeah, so I should have watched the program because we were obsessed last year with Dune. It was one of my highlights of Worlds. So they're using, I'm pretty sure, they're using like half of the program as the exact same music. It's a different order of elements, and I maybe not even a different order of elements because the choreographic step at the end is just replaced with different music basically, and that's it. But I do like there's some elements in this program that are just so cool. There's a she stays completely like rigid, and he does this high to low rotational lift that I thought was so effective in the way that
Hmm.
he controlled it and the way she controlled her
Super cool.
body. um they were so close on the 1 foot steps. I was really impressed with that. The slide move is amazing. And then I would say Feeling Begins, probably as random as it was to tack it on at the end of the program last year, I feel like it felt more legit to the program than this
Right.
dance-ish party thing is going on this year. But all in all, it's still creating a moment, and it kind of mesmerizes you into not really thinking about how maybe empty it is in between these
Yeah.
great elements that they do. Um, but yeah, it's really it's creating a moment again this year, and I think that it will take them far. It's a continuation of where they left off last year, being third in the free dance at Worlds. I think they will do well with it.
See, I'm not 100% on that. I don't even know yet because to me, it wasn't as effective. I agree with you, a lot of cool moments, right? And that kind of describes a lot of teams where they have a lot of cool moments that get strung together. But as a whole package, it just didn't really sing for me.
Hmm.
I agree with you that opening rotational lift, so cool, gets you in the mood. The twizzles are great. The 1 foot, again, the pattern's really big. But then after that, everything just starts to fall away for me.
I forgot about the choreo lift too. That slow moving up, like basically
Yeah, yeah, at the end.
somersault back. I forgot. That was another highlight for me. I mean,
Mhm.
this pro they really Ice Academy Montreal really good at these choreographic moves, getting those big GOE. But I liked it.
Yeah,
I
I
know
mean, it
for you,
wasn't
yeah.
bad. Like I enjoyed a lot of moments of it, but like it just again felt more awkward. It didn't feel as ready, especially the
Hmm.
the curve combination lift, where I feel like
Hmm.
they're trying to recreate that moment
Hmm.
to the same point or part of that same music they were using. but instead of just letting it be just the curve lift, they try to turn it into something else. And I think that's the big miss because when they get to the second curve lift, she really struggles to get in position. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's what really killed the GOE for this
Chewy.
element. And again, this is the GOE for two lifts, and one
Right.
mistake, one bad, awkward moment that
Yeah.
yeah, you know what
Destroys
I
you.
mean? You're
Yeah.
losing
Yeah.
GOE now for two
Yeah.
elements. And you're
Yeah.
looking here,
Double whammy.
yeah, it's mostly twos and threes. Two judges gave it a four. I didn't get that at all. But yeah, it just wasn't as effective to me. The steps felt really generic to the music, like they were just skating right through it. And then you get to the cool choreo lift, and then the choreographic rhythm step was again, it's just like a desert club. I didn't really get it. I didn't
Yeah.
really see any desert clubs when I was watching Dune.
Mm-hmm.
And I think The Feeling Begins works way better because what The Feeling Begins about whirling dervishes is about basically a desert religious experience, which matches a lot of what happens in Dune. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like Paul's constantly going through some type of like desert religious
I don't
experience.
know anything about it.
You've
Nothing.
never watched Dune? Oh my
No,
God.
never. No.
Oh, I just put these movies on as like background noise when I'm like cleaning
Oh,
and stuff. I love
no,
them. Oh
it's
my God. Huge
nope.
sci-fi nerd, so get on it, man. Uh,
Nope. But one thing I did find interesting, even with all of that, three of the nine judges put them in first place on the element score, the total
yeah.
element score. So,
And they got more fives than Chock and Bates did.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's definitely, I mean, that opening lift, a lot of fives. Actually four
Four.
fives just in that element. Yeah. So I think they're gonna do well with this program, and I think once again they're probably gonna build steam up in time for the Olympics, much like she did with her previous partner in the 2022 Olympics when they had, I think they were sixth place, which was a huge surprise. Lim and Kwan, not a lot to say here, but I do want to mention this is my childhood trauma coming back, but Men in Black. So when I was in, I had to be in like probably fourth or I think it was fifth grade, but we were in gym class, and my for whatever reason, I don't know what the theme was, but we had to break off into groups and create these like dances for pieces of music. And for us, I think everyone actually got Men in Black is like the song. And I remember the team that was next to us literally copied our opening movements, and I was like distraught about it. It's just like a flashback. Whenever I hear that song, that's what I think about. I'll never forget it, even though that was 30 years
It's
ago.
really appropriate that you said you were doing this in school
Yeah.
because this
That's what
is
it
what
felt
it
like.
felt like
Yeah.
watching Living Quan's Rhythm Dance. It was again high school kids skating to Men in Black. And
Yeah.
anyone remembers Will Smith's raps from the 90s, they're very
Yeah.
wholesome. He doesn't cuss. He doesn't talk
Hmm.
about like anything potentially problematic, right?
Hmm.
Which again is very fitting in terms of how they interpreted the music too.
Yeah.
There's really just one thing that I really felt like was cool, and that was like the hairography, or sorry,
Hmm.
the handography they were doing into the no such steps, but that's it. And it's otherwise, I felt like just a lot of posing, a lot of like fists in the air. The program was kind of empty, but yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of the rhythm dance in general, but it did also
Hmm.
feel the most 90s and appropriate in terms of authenticity.
Yeah. The free dance, I had high hopes because it's Adagio for Strings, one of my
Yeah.
absolute favorite programs of all time, and one of the most underscored programs in the 6.0 system was Matt Savoy when he skated to this at Nationals one year.
Oh yeah.
Skated a clean program, and somehow the judges found a way to put him in fourth place. That is one of the all-time great short programs. If you have not seen it, I probably, I don't know if I've uploaded it myself, but I'm sure it's somewhere on YouTube. Anyways, so I had high hopes about this program. And then for like after the first minute, it's just like this shrieking vocal version of the song, which I did not like. I don't know why it
Same.
was needed. That song is so beautiful. The outfit is like he's a soldier, so then I'm thinking it's like from the movie Platoon. I don't even know anything about Platoon, but I just know Adagio for strings was used effectively in that movie. So I'm like, maybe they're interpreting that. And then this wailing comes on, like this more modern version that just kept going and going, and then the program just dies out with it. And I really did not like the program.
It's not good, no, because it felt like lazy choreography to me. Nothing really was fitting to the music. And as the first thing that really stuck out to me was this rotational lift, which is really nice if you don't listen to the music. But other than that, it's just a rotational lift through the
Yeah,
music. It's not
yeah,
fitting at all. And then they just go into some elements that to me that are just really weak, like the 1 foot turns, just
yeah.
really small pattern. maybe like the highlight was maybe that curve lift where it was interesting and that she's more or less just draped on him in the back, and that was like
But
cool and that was
we've seen that
interesting.
from, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
But then it's just and then it gets into the wailing and it's just really bad.
I think it's a
I just
miss.
didn't enjoy it.
She's
And
such
they're
a
just
character, and like this
yeah.
doesn't do anything to really have this program be outgoing.
But it's you think about Adagio for strings. I don't know what emotions it elicits for you, but I think of like melancholy, longing,
Yeah.
heartbreak, unfairness, right? Especially if it's this idea of like a soldier going off to war and it's someone you love and you're losing them, right?
And they're smiling through everything.
And they're smiling and it's like and again, she's just not really kind of going to that place. And
Hmm.
he's never been really
Hmm.
a great kind of performer in terms of like emotionally. He kind of is always one note.
One
She's
level.
always the
Yeah.
one really performing for the both of them. But in this, if she's missing the performance, there's it just really falls flat. And
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy this all that much.
Yeah.
My, I don't know about you, but
Yeah, I mean, I was excited because I thought they were using the original the whole way through, and I'm like, I'm gonna love this, and then no, it just completely fell flat for me. We have the next team. I just want to mention them
yeah,
really briefly. But the French team, Loisia and Teo, they had my favorite programs 2 years ago. I think it is
yeah.
now, and they're a Korean team, and we're big fans of what she does. I feel like maybe lately they've had more misses than hits. One thing I will say about they skated well in the rhythm dance, but what I don't understand is, they're using No Scrubs. They're using a 2017 cover of this song. Now, somewhere in the rules, and the rules when I saw the AI thing, I probably stopped reading. But somewhere in the rules, they had to change from last year to this year because the issue last year was that Guignard and Fabry were using a more modern version of "Holding Out for a Hero," and they said you're not allowed to use that. You have to go back to the original. So they had to change their music somewhere along the line this year, because we've seen a lot of covers that were not in the 90s. They probably said it was okay. I don't know why they just didn't use the original No Scrubs. Maybe it was like a copyright kind of issue or whatever, but it's just like the version they
Yeah,
used was meh.
I
Um,
agree.
and then for the free dance, I had hopes because they said like they're super into this. This is music from League of Legends, which I don't know anything about, but I know that there's a big fan base there, and I know that if you're gonna skate to this, you're obviously some kind of hardcore fan of this, right? And I felt like they were just I don't know.
Yeah,
It
it
seemed
didn't make
flat.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Like I think both their programs this year are misses. Same thing. The music was really confusing to me as well. And then the free dance, same thing. The track is Curse of the Sad Mummy, right?
Hmm.
And then the program ends with this like vocal that says, "Art is worth the pain." So if I think
Hmm.
of like these two things and like what happens in between, I'm like, I didn't feel any of this or
Hmm.
see any of this at all, right? I'm just talking about their elements. They have that signature stationary interrotational lift that they do. Always a big hit with the judges. You could see that here
Yeah.
too. Scored
Big,
really
big
well.
GOE. Yeah.
Big GOE on that. But then after that, everything just kind of like more or less dies off for me, especially when it gets to the twizzles, which is their weakest element.
Yeah, and they put it
Um,
so late.
and they always put it late, and it's always like they're
Yeah.
trying to hide it. And I've just never understood this. And
Yeah.
I think about teams like Fear and Gibson, where this was their weakest element too, the twizzles, and how they've
Hmm.
turned it really into a highlight and a strength. Fear and Gibson
Hmm.
have pretty good twizzles now, especially that first set covers so much ice, has great consistent rotational speed, and they perform during it. Whereas like here, again, you can just tell like they're just trying to get through it. What's a
Yeah.
point in the program where I can put these twizzles to where it's not really going to highlight anything? Because what if we mess it up?
Yeah, and I almost felt like the transition into the second half of the program, a lot of those elements were kind of just throwaway to get through and be
Hmm.
like, okay, this is the spot that we need to do them. And I know they're so capable
Yeah.
of so much more, and I want more for them because it looked like they were going on this upwards trajectory. They were fifth at Europeans, I'm pretty sure, and now they're just lost in the
Yeah.
shuffle, really,
And like I think about that, the choreographic assisted jumps. I think most teams, whatever, have really not figured this element out.
Hmm.
Right? Maybe it's just like one really that really has. But this was just like thrown away. It just felt like they
Hmm.
were just doing it, like you were saying, to get it done, to put something in there that they could fit in.
Yeah.
And you even see here, the US judge gave them a 0 in GOE for that. Like
Because it was a bunch of nothing. It
well,
really
yeah,
looked,
just a bunch of
it was
nothing.
just a transition to get to the next half of the program. I mean, um, yeah.
And then at the end, you could see like Ari Bear looked upset.
Oh yeah, she was not
I
happy.
don't know what she was saying to them in French. I maybe should have listened a little harder, and my AP French high school level could have picked like a few words up, right?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it was really funny because like Teo didn't really seem all that bothered, but she was just mad, and you could see
Yeah.
that. They made a big mistake in the dance spin. They
Yeah.
lost a lot of
Yeah.
points.
He stumbled when they did the transition to
Yeah.
the other
hmm
foot. Yeah.
So, losing the level, losing the GOE, that's like almost 2 points. They could have been
Mhm.
higher.
Yeah, not much to say. I'm just disappointed because I love all the teams that come out of her camp, and I feel
Mhm.
like they've all kind of hit this rock. I don't know what it's going to take, but I wish the best for all of them because I enjoy all of them. Really quickly, the Chinese teams finished in the last three spots. Wang and Liu once again showed that they're on top. They're most likely going to the Olympics. This competition plus Chinese nationals is the determine. It's going to determine who gets the Olympic spot, and I can't see them not getting it.
Yeah,
I will say I think they skated a little bit better in the Olympic qualifying competition
I agree.
than they skated
Yeah,
here.
this was,
That's
yeah, I
all.
think at the same
Yeah.
level of everyone, where everyone's level just
Yeah.
kind of felt depressed
Yeah.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing.
That wraps up ice dance. I mean, I think the summary of this is I think Chock and Bates have a lot of work to do. I don't think it's all over for them yet, but I think appropriately scored in a head-to-head kind of it's really not a head-to-head system that you're supposed to be scoring them, but I think that if you're just looking, I think that the French team just has it all over them in almost everything that they're doing. And I think that, like I said last week, and I think you did too, their free dance especially is an Olympic moment. I don't feel like it's anywhere near that with Chalk and Bates. They need a lot of work. Maybe they need to completely change the theme and the costumes and now be like the wind and the sun or something. I don't know. They did that a few years ago and it ended up working for them. But right now it's not really anything. So okay, let's wrap up
Yeah,
dance. We went way long for
I
dance.
know we always do with dance.
Yeah, because we have a lot of opinions.
I know.
Moving into women. So what are the overall thoughts and impressions from this?
Well, again, some terrible officiating in terms of like the tech panel here. I kept joking like ban them all, but at this
Yeah,
point I'm kind of not
really.
joking. Ban them
And it's
all.
the same panel for the men and the women, by the way.
Yeah,
So
and poor job in both events,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
Worst job in the men's overall,
Mhm.
but yeah, not a great one. But here we have Amber Glenn as the winner. Not really a surprise. It was going to be her. Alyssa was kind of the conventional wisdom, and it really kind of I felt like depended on whether Amber hit her tech content or not, and she
Hmm.
did here. And I think that's what really put her over the top.
Yep.
Alyssa Liu in silver. Rinka Watanabe in bronze, and it's a bit of a comeback for her. She made that huge splash, like winning, I want to say, Skate Canada a bit ago, had that triple axel before, and then, like you were saying, did great in the fall season, but didn't make the world team.
Hmm.
Um, and then Gubanova right off the podium in fourth, and Shin in fifth. I was going to mention in sixth here, Rino Matsuike, just because of her skating skills. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna gush about her when we get to her. Amber won, like a prayer, the short program, and I had all the hopes in the world for this program. Like, this is gonna be so cool. Um, you know, first of all, the music at it, and a lot of people have already said this, but that way it kind of transitions into that kind of epic trailer music or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it for the last 5 or 10 seconds. It really just kills the. I understand you cannot finish on like a prayer. It's really not a song. It just trails off like the actual song. It just doesn't have like an ending. But you could find another way, I think, to end that rather than what it is. Yeah. So triple axel. I'm gonna get flamed for saying this, but the fact of the matter is, it's like a 9 or 10 second looking backwards to watch and see where she's going, breaking all choreography. And I understand it's a difficult jump, but you also had a skater last week that kind of flew into the triple axel with no preparation. It is possible. That's
Right.
the thing. So Amber's doing this long kind of Emmanuel Sandu, if you want, long preparation into the jump, finally goes into it, and then more often than not, she's really not coming out with any flow, which is not the end of the world. She kind of masks it in the short. She does like a twizzle movement out of it, I think, to regain momentum. But for me, the GOE should be moderate there, like a +1, +2 at a
Right. It's a +2
max.
max jump for me
Yeah,
just because of
yeah,
all the telegraphing. And it's
yeah,
really bad. It's actually like worse than any old school Junhwan Cha, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and it
Or
was, I
Jason
feel like
Brown. Yeah.
forgivable when, her doing this triple axel was more or less kind of the only game in
Hmm.
town.
Hmm.
And now that you're again, like you're saying, Amy Nakai just seamlessly
Yeah.
integrated a triple axel.
Yeah. But it's not the end of the world. It's still a +2 jump.
Yeah.
I just think that going overboard with a jump that really is so telegraphed
hmm
and then doesn't really have that much run out, it's a bit much to go above that. Um, one thing I will notice, and I used to say this probably, I don't know, 2019, 2020, around then, the way that she toe picks in for the flip, it was kind of conducive to her going into the toe loop and pre-rotating and coming out short. I feel like that's sneaking back in again. Same thing
Yep.
with Corey Sakamoto. I feel like at certain points with her, we've seen her mess around with where she's toe picking into the flip. But with Amber, she showed up to both programs this year, or this competition, and the toe pick was a little bit, the technique was a little bit off. And I feel like it's just asking for that toe loop to have problems. It's asking to land the flip kind of awkwardly and then potentially get an under rotation there. It just didn't look quite right, but it was consistent between both programs. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a technique change or what. But I think I think the program is cool. I would change the end of it. I love the steps. I love the
Yeah.
vibe of it. I think it's really something that sets itself apart and will set itself apart if she gets to the Olympics, which I expect she will. But it's something that, again, she lands that triple axel, she can kind of almost not run away with the short program because we've seen other skaters can also now score as high, but it will give her a nice cushion in case
And
things
she needs
do go a
that. She
little
really does need
haywire.
that
Yeah.
cushion because,
Yeah.
she has it's not like she has the top world, top of the world skating skills, and you really felt
Hmm.
that to me in the step sequence
Hmm.
too. And I know it was everybody just kind of had lower energy levels of this
Hmm.
competition, but it really felt like it was dragging.
Yeah.
Um, and even then, though, that step sequence isn't really supposed to tie this whole program together because that
Yeah.
to me, that first half is really empty and it's all business.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so if the step sequence doesn't have that impact, it just kind of falls flat, you know?
Yeah.
And to me, it just kind of like the program just kind of ends on a whimper to me in the way she
Yeah.
performed it here.
100%. Yeah.
And so it's a big upside at least, right? There is a lot to work on, and that's good because you can see to where this is going to become something that could like become viral, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then talking about, the free skate, I think she did a great job of holding it together, but you literally, I would say the same criticisms we just had. I think in terms of consistency, we're seeing a lot better from her, especially here where she had that one issue and then just picked it up right from there, kept going, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I thought that was really great. But again, issues on both flips here. She pre-rotated the combination, the long program, both jumps. I really felt like she almost lost that edge taking off for the
Yeah.
triple toe.
Yeah.
She had to step out of it, and then the second triple flip is called Q. Probably was actually under. Um, but yeah, other than that, she did a great job of holding everything together. But I liked this program last year. Seeing it again this year, I don't know if it was just the way it was performed again because
Probably.
everyone's
Yeah.
everyone's yeah again performance level was just down, but it just does not have any impact. I felt like toward the end I was just waiting for it to be over.
Yeah. Mm.
I lost interest right after her last triple loop, and that was it. And I was
Mhm.
just like, okay. Could
I didn't
also
think it
be we've
was.
been staying up all night. So
Yeah, that too. I think it was. I like the program. I don't have a problem with it. I do think she was just not full energy here, and it
Mhm.
kind of conveyed itself. It was apparent in both programs, and she didn't really give the energy. I don't. Maybe something went wrong like mid program because you saw she was grabbing her neck as
Yeah.
soon as she was done. I don't know if she has some like minor injury that she's not talking about, or if
She
she
had
maybe
that
pulled.
muscle tape, the athletic muscle
Well,
tape
yeah, that
you could
yeah.
see too. And so, if it's even me, I don't do a top level sport, but I have like chronic weird injuries and muscle
Hmm.
pulls just from like playing tennis once upon a time, and then working out as an adult. So I can't imagine what a world-class athlete is constantly dealing with in that
Yeah.
regard. It's probably normal.
Hmm. I think okay with her, yeah, it was just low energy. She
Yeah.
comes away with the win, which is great. I think I need to see her in her next event before I'm
Yeah.
really like, because this just across the board,
I
it's
would say
we're gonna
everyone in this event,
repeat
let's
this.
see the
We're gonna
next
repeat
event.
this every single skater that it was just it was
Yeah.
okay. I have hope for the short program. The free skate, I like it. I think she did rebound really well, and she popped back up with this loop that was just so effortless in the free skate. But I
Yeah.
I think that I just need to see it performed with a little bit more energy. So she wins, and then Alyssa gets silver skating both of her programs from last year. She is retooling
Yeah.
her Lady
And let's
Gaga
let's
free
talk about that
skate.
really quick before we get
Yeah,
into the program. So yeah, she's
yeah.
using both programs from last year, but she debuted this season with two new programs. And
Hmm.
you know a lot more of these details if you want
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
it.
So the short program. One of not the main artist because it's the same artist as last year, but the one of the artists that sang with her, David. His name is pronounced David, but it's D4VD. Very popular. He became very popular on TikTok, and he was starting to build quite the reputation for himself. Center of some controversy. You can look up the details if you want to know, but it was top news for about a few
Yeah. Made
weeks.
front page of Reddit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, she dissociated herself with being connected to that, so she decided to go back to her last year's program, which from what I saw of the new program, I think that I like the last year's program
Me too.
better anyways. So it's it's a moment. And then the free skate was Lady Gaga, and it really I was so disappointed because I was thinking this is going to be so cool. And then it just really looked undercooked when she did perform it at Lombardia.
It was
And
so bad. I didn't even say it was a bad performance. It was just a bad program.
mm,
Yeah, I didn't see anything really cool about it or different. Like she's just kind of doing like, oh look, here I am, I'm
yeah,
having fun, and that was it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I no.
So she's had, but she, on top of all of this, she's had boot problems. I think she went through like six different pairs of boots. She said she finally found one that's close to perfect or close to what it was or something like that. So she went back to MacArthur Park for the time being until she can rework the Lady Gaga program, which I don't know when she'll have time to do that. If she makes the Grand Prix
Or
final, there's, very
or if
limited
even in
time.
its form it's even salvageable because I think it's you should start all over. If you do the Lady
Yeah.
Gaga program, just scrap everything you've done and
Yeah.
just start from scratch because
Yeah.
it just felt so disjointed.
But one thing I think maybe we disagree with in the short program, I thought the Lutz loop looked rotated. I was very surprised because I remember a few years ago, like before her comeback, I was always like, oh, all her jumps are like borderline downgradable rather than just under
Oh no, I
rotation,
was
you know?
surprised. I didn't think it
Oh,
was
you
under
okay,
rotated.
okay,
I was just like,
okay.
oh,
Yeah.
she actually rotated
Yeah,
it.
that's what I
Yeah,
thought
that was
too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, as far as I know, it looked
Mhm.
like a huge jump, and I was surprised that she's actually go because that's one thing, putting a loop on the end of anything, that's asking for under rotation call. It
Yeah.
just is by the nature of the jump and the way that you're going up without a toe pick assist, it's just asking to be a little bit short. So it looked huge to me. It looked good. Um, love the short program still. I'm not
Me
really
too.
tired of it in any way.
Same.
And I love MacArthur Park as well. I've just always loved the song. So when I saw she was skating to this medley, I was very excited, and I think that she gets the vibes of it. Again, here, so low energy, and you can tell she's not all the way trained, and everything it's crawled to the finish like it did last year for basically up until Worlds, and even at Worlds, it wasn't like she was storming through the end of that. But really, really kind of like just lost all the energy here. She, she's just so whatever about everything. She looked shocked to get through the short program. She looked a little emotional about it. And then in the free skate, she's like, oh, like whatever. I don't care what just
It
happened.
seemed like she was like, oh, I got that high of a score.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I felt like that too. Yeah.
Like
So that's
lol,
her
right?
vibe all the time. That literally is her vibe all the time. She's kind of just like, I swear she like goes and skates and then she like doesn't think about it the rest of the day.
Good
She's
for
not one of those
her.
people
No,
that
good
wakes
for
up and is
her.
like, yeah, exactly. It's a very healthy relationship, I think, with the sport, and she just takes it in stride, and it's very casual, and you
Yeah,
can
I
kind of
hope
see
she's
like that
staying an extra
fun.
1 or 2 days and just being a tourist. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's probably why I think she picked Cup of China, just because she got to do that. And
Yeah.
the city that they're in too. I'm not sure if anyone's ever seen
Yeah.
pictures of the city that this is in. What is it called? Oh my God, I'm gonna totally butcher this pronunciation. I am so sorry to all the Chinese fans out there. But Chongqing, right? It's like a very futuristic city. It's like you've walked into 50 years into the future. Like that's just how cool this place is, and it's on my bucket list to go
Mhm.
visit at some point. But yeah, the skating itself, again, like everybody else, and even for her, you could tell she had the same feeling about her skating that we are. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so like, I didn't really pick her as bronze before this event, but
Me
Rinka
neither.
Watanabe got
Yeah.
the bronze here, and it's the return of her triple axel, really.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's, she's always been one of these skaters that I guess I'm like a little not unfair to, but her posture and her kind of looseness and the way she'll land a jump with like a really rigid kind of
Mhm.
blade, and then the rest of her body kind of twists around to get in the position. It's hard to explain. I wish we
Kind
could
of like
use
Fumier
videos, but
a little bit,
yeah,
Seguri.
a little bit. Unlike
Yeah.
her Salchow that she was like barely ever, or the loop. The Salchow she always had trouble with the loop. She would like it would be really tight, and she'd like wrap her leg around when she landed almost every single time. It's kind of like that. So it's a little loosey, like not so pleasant. And then I feel like also her skating skills in general are quite nice, but they're just not up to that. Like we'll talk about another skater in this very competition that's just like far and away above. I've always felt like there's just a little bit of a sloppiness to her skating. But yeah, the triple axel back jumps were fine in the short program. I mean, you could talk about like the toe loop, which I always think looks a little bit short. I don't think it was even reviewed as far as I know. It's just like a very generic program. It's Tango de Roxanne was probably the most
Yeah.
overused piece in this generation of skating and the one before it too. And it just I don't ever get like a wow, this interpretation is so fresh and
Right.
amazing. It was pleasant, it was okay, but it's not like
Yeah, I
I
feel
don't
like most skaters who pick that to pick Tango to Roxanne, the goal is to have the music do the interpretation for them, really. And I kind of felt that here a little bit. Yeah, short program, nice, did its job. The triple axel really kind of set her up for success here because she needed it,
know.
considering in the long program it was a bit of a mess. But
Yeah.
it's because she was taking risks, though. It
Triple
wasn't
axel,
like she was
triple
just,
toe. I mean,
yeah,
what?
who's going for triple
Yeah.
axel, triple toe in women's
Yeah.
today, right?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. That was
But
very surprising. I couldn't
me
believe
too.
she went up trying to
And
rotate
she
that
didn't need to do
triple
it
toe.
like that. She
Yeah.
really didn't. Just put the
Yeah.
double toe on. I don't understand that because
Yeah.
otherwise that would have been a clean element. That triple
Hmm.
axle was
Was
great. And then
nice.
all of a sudden she goes for the triple toe, doesn't rotate it fully, falls, right?
Yeah.
And I think the panel gave her a benefit of the doubt Q,
Hmm.
considering the
Yeah.
fall because you lose nothing additional if you call it a Q
Hmm.
versus a
Hmm.
carrot. And then it's so funny. I called this too, the triple flip. It's unclear edge and Q, right? Gets hit with both. That really goes down, and then she falls and under rotates on the next triple axel that she goes
Hmm.
for. So everything else in the program
The
is more or
loop,
less clean-ish.
the
Say
loop,
what?
the
Oh,
popped
and she
loop.
pops the loop. Yeah,
Yeah.
and she pops the loop at the end. Otherwise, it's nice. To me, the long program's not memorable at all. Like if I'm trying to think back now of any moment, I can't think of anything
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
program other than the triple axle, triple toe, right? Like that's it.
Hmm. Hmm. But okay, so she's on the podium, surprising, really.
Yeah.
She was, I think, Skate America last year. She was on the podium as well, so she's always in there as a contender. She kind of gets lost in the shuffle for me. I
Mhm.
just don't. There's so many other Japanese skaters that I'm in love with, and she's there and she's pleasant and her skating skills are just fine, but it's just not the level of greatness that there's so many others. Gubanova, I'm gonna let you do all the talking because you have this weird like love obsession with the free skate, and I'm just like, whatever. Honestly, it gives me no vibes at all. So
Really?
I will
Like I
let you
saw
do
that
all the
too. Other
talking.
people were like, I was so bored. I'm like, I love this. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, for
yeah.
Gubanova, she's fourth here, but I think there's an argument for her to be third, considering how well she
Hmm.
skated throughout. Again, not the best basics, probably in the final group, probably is the one of the weaker levels of basics. Right there with Glenn and Lou. She's not with the Korean or the Japanese.
Yeah,
But and again, like I think what I'm really feeling is that she must have found this renewed sense of love for skating, or maybe discovering love of skating for the first time. Whatever has happened between last season and this season is just a
yeah,
different skater.
yeah.
Um, you just see joy. The jumps are better, right? They,
I don't think so.
I think she's rotating better.
Oh, maybe rotating, but just I think that some of the entrances and the
Oh
way
yeah,
that
yeah.
she
They're
really
always going
has,
to be bad. Her technique's just
yeah,
bad.
yeah. I mean, they're really, and that should really reflect in the GOE because those entrances, some of them are just so whippy and
It
weird, and
does. I
they've
think it
always been
does.
like that,
Like
though.
if
Yeah.
you just look at the landing edges of her combination in the long program, they're
Hmm.
great, right?
Hmm.
But it's the takeoff of the flip that really kind
Yeah.
of lowers
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
GOE. You can see
Yeah.
that it's maxing out at +3, and even then, I don't only give it a +2 myself.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, the long program. Okay,
Yeah.
so
You
let's
can
do
talk all
Ghost
about
the
it.
musical,
Yeah.
and I think the first skaters to really use this were Ilyinic and Katsalapov in
Hmm.
2012, 13.
Hmm.
And it was a panned program back then because the music was so cringe. And I
Hmm.
don't think anyone's really skated this music well, right? Like I think Ilyinic Katsalapov skated it well one time when they should have won the Euro title. But I would say Gubanova is the first version of this music that has made me feel anything. And it's just this sensitivity. I don't know, whatever she's communicating, whatever she's feeling, I get that. I feel that she's in the program. I feel like she's feeling that music. She's feeling the longing. She's feeling that, like I want something that I can't have
Mhm.
anymore. And then it's her arms, just you can feel the music kind of flowing
The arms
through
are
her
always
arms.
so good use of her arms. I'm
Right.
I'm gonna
But
give her
it's
that.
that emotional sensitivity added to that,
Uh,
like really the grace and the extension, like that really kind of does it for me,
I
I
love
think.
the dress. I love the shape that it creates
Hmm.
with the string or whatever it is on the back to make the faces. I like
Yeah,
all that
I think that's
stuff,
great.
but the program is just I think it's just the music is like my
It's
hurdle.
just
I
so
I know
mature. I,
it's
I don't know. It's just the interpretation to me is so
yeah.
mature, and we're not seeing this level of maturity in any other skater in this field. And even if the step sequence kind of like slowed to a crawl a little bit, I
Hmm.
still felt like the music was again flowing through her all throughout. It
Hmm.
felt just kind of like really consistent, slow
Yeah.
but smooth, and she
Yeah.
never lost sight of that performance. She never lost the face in the
Hmm.
program. I don't know. I would say this was probably my favorite
Yeah, you said that at Olympic
moment.
qualifying too. I was just
Oh,
kind of
really? In the
yeah, that's
women's
why I knew
here, did
you
I?
liked
Okay,
it.
of course I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
again, I was not really a big fan of Gubanova at all until this season. And so I think I'm just missing that kind of genuine emotional feel from women's skating today. And I don't really know anyone else other than Gubanova who's giving it to us.
got it. I don't know. I think it's just the music. I think the music is just so bad
It
and like
is.
uplifting, cheesy. I don't know. But yeah, if you feel something from it, then good for you. Shin finishes fifth here, and she's coming straight off of competing last week as well. So from France to China, with minimal turnaround, skated a pretty good short program, much better than she did in France. We're not going to talk
Yeah.
too much about her because we saw her last week, but she got through the Lutz toe, and then the flip was just too close to the boards, almost ran into them, so she had to step out. And then the free skate, just again, there's like little moments where like she popped the loop. I see she has the I think in junior she was always so consistent, but now she's having this tendency for whatever reason to pop jumps into singles. From what I've seen in the two competitions, we don't really see that so much anymore. Definitely a step up from where she was last week. I think had she skated even slightly better, she would potentially be a contender for the podium, which is huge for
Yeah.
her considering where she was at last week. Matsuike in sixth place. This last year she had well, she turned her free skate from last year into her short program this year, and she kept some of the choreography that I love. That long gliding movement. Um,
Mhm.
the step sequence is just so good. Like just the way she moves her body. This is someone I think that is just naturally at one with the music. I don't think she needs to be told how to like interpret. I think she just gets it. And that's nice to see. But then in the in the free skate, the sequence is going to be this highlight again. Then she takes this massive fall on. At least it was a deep edge, though. It was like some kind of edge work that we
Really,
don't
and I
necessarily.
remember right before that, I was so impressed because she does this like
Yeah,
a really deep edge and a
yeah.
curve, and she has her body horizontal, almost like in a spiral position. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm just having this like this is amazing,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
bam,
Yeah.
like right
Yeah.
after, yeah. The free
I
program was a total mess.
yeah. Yeah. I like her free program from last year better than this Nutcracker. But even so, she's a skater. She could skate to Feeling Good by Michael Bublé, which is my number one
Mhm.
most despised, and I would be like, I love her skating. I could
I
watch her,
know,
just
right?
watch
Yeah,
her,
she has that ability, and it's like
Yeah.
her skating skills. I This must just be like really natural. You can teach really good basics, right? But she herself, just her body and just everything, just
I
must
think so.
innately
Yeah. Yeah.
understand it because it's like Patrick Chan level impressive. You know what I mean? And he can't teach it because he doesn't 100% know what he's
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's was probably the best we've seen like in recent memory at all.
Hmm.
And I put Reno up there really. And if you look at here, only one judge even dared to put her first in skating skills in the short program.
Hmm.
Some judges had her as low as
But
eighth,
that
and I'm like,
happened
that's
last
just a
year too.
travesty.
That really happened last year too, and I just didn't because I really thought that free skate was so I like that to me was just out of this world masterpiece of a program. And the judges were always pretty conservative with the components, and I never really quite understood why because to me it was just so good. She's so impressive. She's another one on
Mhm.
the list that I'm like, oh, I hope she makes it to the Olympics, but we all know.
Yeah,
And
it
with
doesn't
her,
look. Yeah.
she's not even close to making the Grand Prix final now. You have probably five other women when all is said and done that are going to be from Japan fighting for spots in the Grand Prix final. So, I will still enjoy her skating. I just don't think that it's in the cards for her. And then yeah,
Yeah.
Zhang from China that we talked about her really liking her Madonna Frozen short program at the Olympic qualifier. The short program didn't go. Well, I mean, her short program was fine, but the big surprise was the other woman that was here, Beverly Zhu, who went to the 2022 Olympics and had the terrible time because of what people China
Yeah.
kind of turned against her. Then United States was kind of turning against her too. Um, it looked like in the short program it was really going to be a battle, and then by the time the free skate came, it was clear who
And
is
you could see
most
she knew
likely.
that at the end of the long
Yeah,
program. You know, you,
yeah,
you could
yeah,
see
yeah,
that she was holding back tears because this was
yeah,
one of those things that if she wants an Olympic spot, she had to perform here and she didn't.
yeah.
Whereas, Zhang really blew it out of the water in the long program, right? Like just had the
Yeah.
one jump issue. She under rotated the loop, but everything else was clean. Only
Hmm.
has up to the triple flip, but you really don't need more than that
Hmm.
right now to qualify for the Olympic spot, to be in the
Yeah.
Chinese team. Hana Yoshida too, two-time Grand Prix event champion. So it was really surprising here too to see her really fall apart. But again,
Loved her short program. Loved the short
I do, I
program.
do. I thought the Kill Bill was a great idea for her because I
Yeah,
love the quirky, her Cuckoo Fun
yeah,
program. I still hear
yeah,
that music every once in a while in
yeah,
my head.
yeah,
I just hear
yeah.
Cuckoo Fun.
Yeah.
I just, I'll probably be 90 and saying this, and people just like, oh, he's doing it again.
Grandpa needs his pills.
I know, right? For
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, so that's up that's what it's basically wraps up the women's event. I'm really not impressed. I'm not, it's a long journey for a lot of these skaters, and I have no doubt that jet lag and potentially the rink being too hot and maybe the ice being too hard, which I've also read, it could all play a part in
Yeah.
all of this, but I just feel like everyone was not really 100%, and I feel like the technical panel was, of course, very lazy as well. Alyssa and Amber looking like, they're both in good shape to make the Grand Prix final. It's to us, it looks like it's very clear that it's going to be Alyssa, Amber, and Isabeau for the Olympic
Yeah,
team,
I think so too.
barring some major like shocking
Because
result.
even
But
though Isabeau didn't medal last week, she skated really well,
really high
and that
score. Yeah.
performance would have like medaled or won most GPs last year. It's just she was in a really deep field with some surprise breakout skates, like Ami Nakai, right?
Yeah.
So no one saw that coming. At least I don't think I didn't see it coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
And
but
then we just have to, yeah, we have to see what Alyssa does eventually with if she does show up with a retooled Lady Gaga. But yeah, that basically sums up the entire women's competition. Let's move on to the men.
yeah.
Overall
So
thoughts.
same terrible calling.
Really terrible here.
Terrible,
Really terrible.
terrible.
Yeah.
If not for just a huge miss in pairs, the calling in the men's would have just been the worst.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's only because that miss in pairs is so big, but there were less misses, whereas
But
in
I feel
men's there were
like the the
consistent misses
the
here.
calling, the PCS scores for some of the skaters, I
Oh,
mean,
so bad. The judging too.
just
Yeah.
just all around, like what is happening. Shun Sato, thankfully,
Thank God. I know.
pulled
We're,
through.
we're being Grassl in his program.
Thankfully pulled through in the free skate,
Yes.
skating the same short program as last year. This is Guillaume Cizeron program, actually choreographed. Really shows off, I think, all of Shun's really elegant and kind of
Mm.
finished lines and qualities, and he really does a nice job with the program. And then the free skate, it's Firebird. This is another one where I'm like, I don't really ever get any vibes out of Firebird,
Yeah.
but he got through that program so well, and I understand like his quad lutz looks like a triple lutz because it is rotated so fast and it doesn't get a tremendous amount of height or distance. None of his jumps really do. He just is a very fast rotator. So I understand why the GOEs might not be massive, but he gets through everything so cleanly that it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah,
So
same, right? And it's like, okay, don't give them plus fours or plus fives. Maybe hold
yeah,
back some plus threes here. But
yeah,
like some of these quads that were really clean got plus
yeah,
ones or
yeah,
zeros from the judges. And to me, that was just nuts. I don't know why his GOE is so suppressed.
yeah,
Because you don't need necessarily to have height or distance to get plus one or plus two,
yeah,
So I didn't really understand that, but it was a really clean, long program, no rotation issues
yep.
that either called or I even saw, right? So
Hmm.
that was really good. Um, But I have a lot of problem too with like some of the judging here with like components, for example,
Yeah,
right?
me too.
Like, how is he not first in components across the board for every single judge?
Hmm.
Because he loses the components. He only gets 4 out of 5 judges. So like that's just insane to me. Like it's just really inconsistent. And so, but before we get to kind of just the comparisons here, I love the reaction and the kiss and cry when they
Of
realize
oh
they
my
won,
God,
and it's
yeah,
the coach who's like,
losing his mind.
yes. And
Yeah.
you took this screen grab, and it's like the coach losing his mind, and then Shun is just covered in a towel,
Yep.
and I know it wasn't literally like this, but it's just like, oh my God, you're so embarrassing.
That's what I think it was, really.
Oh, it was?
Because
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, like, but he literally just sat there, kind of like he saw the result and he's like, oh, relieved. But then the coach is going wild, so it might have been a little bit of
Yeah,
that.
but
It was
super
funny.
cool. I love that
Yeah,
reaction from the coach. I really
yeah,
did. It's way
yeah,
better than some of like the really kind of not great ones we've seen in the past,
yeah,
like the coaches that are totally just refusing to even look at their
yeah,
skaters.
yeah.
So that was great. But generally I thought he was undermarked. His PCS and GOE should have been a little higher
Comparatively, yeah,
here. Yeah,
yeah.
relative to this next skater.
Danny
Uh,
Grassl, so we're hard on him, and I think a lot of people are hard on him. I think that he unfortunately does it to himself a little bit because of,
he
when
taunts
he,
people. Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing, saying like, my haters make me stronger, thanks to everything you have to say. I think at the end of the day, he's probably a very introverted type of person that
Yeah.
doesn't really have the social skill to understand kind of the reaction of people when you do things like that. I've just from his vibe, I just get that he's introverted and maybe much more shy than what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
However, he's always had glimpses of being an artistic skater. I'm
Yeah.
not going
And
to say he's a Boyang Jin that skates
yeah.
through the program, looks at the he's not like that.
Well, let's
But
just talk about those positives.
yeah,
I think in
yeah,
terms of like improvements over these past few years, he's done a great job of fixing his posture, fixing his extension, better skating skills, the smoother transitions, just more difficult programs even too. Like he
mhm.
has worked on all of those things, right? But it really is the jumps that just still drive me crazy. And then the
He's
calling
known
of his
for his
jumps is
jumps.
so inconsistent.
But that's the thing. He's known for his jumps, yet those are the things that are
The
so
worst the
wildly
worst
out
part of
of
his skating
control.
is his jumps
Yeah.
these
So,
days, I would say, even if
yeah.
he's doing these quads. Like, so every single jump in that short program to me had a rotation issue,
Yeah.
and the judges only called the Lutz a Q.
Yeah. So for me, the way that he goes into that loop on a curve, he changed the pattern in the free skate, but in the short program, how he goes into the loop on the curve, that's almost conducive to getting an under rotation every single time, just because of the
Yeah.
way the shape is of the entrance of the loop. I thought it looked short in the short program, and I think that the triple toe, this is an instance of a very clear they could call real time toe axle under rotation because of pre-rotation. They really could call that in real time every single time. It's that bad and it's that twisted.
And
And
they don't.
even the landing comes down short on top of all of that. They don't say anything. Or maybe actually was it a cue? I don't know. But
No, the triple toe did not get called.
no, so nothing. And then the triple axle, I have to say, usually he can get through that jump and it looks fine. But in the short program, sometimes you know how the blade kind of gets stuck in place and you can't
Yeah.
really get it out of there. It looked like he landed, if you want to use the cue, which is what they use the majority of the time, it looked like it was about a cue short. But they look the other way. They don't give him any of these calls, and he scores
Yeah.
massively. Like, what was his short program score? Like 95?
90.42 when it should
Oh,
have been like 80 or less. Yeah,
yeah.
because like again, I saw the quad Lutz as under caret,
Hmm.
triple toe should have been Q. I saw the quad loop as
Under.
and the triple axle as Q. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So every single jump here had a problem. But
Losing
if you're
GOE
listening to
and
Chris, they
losing
didn't even
points.
review the quad loop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's
I don't know.
insane to me
Yeah.
that you're not reviewing his quad loop that he's probably never really cleanly landed before.
Yeah. And then the free skate, it's this Pope inspired Vatican like conclave.
It's so bad.
But here's the thing, it's he's going for these big jumps. It
Yeah.
is back and forth down the ice for a minute and a half preparing
Yep.
for these big jumps, which is true of all these skaters that are doing it. But with him, it's very glaring because there is literally nothing else going on,
Yeah.
and he
No.
really telegraphs the
He
entrances
did
to
a
the.
better job of actually, rotating some of these jumps in
Yeah, I
terms of
agree.
like the landing. Still massive pre-rotation on the quad Lutz and the quad loop, but I don't.
I think the Lutz looked good.
It
I
did.
think in real time, I think the loop actually looked good because of
Yeah.
the straight line that he went into. I mean, it could always be argued that there's a little hook on the landing with the
Yeah.
loop. And then but I did think some of the later jump.
No, it was a Let's Toe.
Oh yeah, the Lutz was went up completely crooked, was not rotated, and the toe was like a prayer. And
Such a
I don't
bad
think
toe
that was
axle. It was
even
so under.
reviewed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he got away, this is my problem with a lenient panel versus one that just refuses. He's now a silver medalist in a Grand Prix event, a panel that actually took the time to review the jumps and say, hey, these actually do have rotation issues. He's being knocked down the standings. So the next event that might very well happen. There's no consistency. It's one of these Mirai Nagasu, Vincent Zhou kind of situation where it's
Yeah.
really 100% dependent on what the panel wants to do. It
It's
is
like,
not
yeah.
ever indicative of what he's doing. It's like
hmm
how they feel on the day, and it should not be like that.
I totally agree here. He should have been knocked down to bronze at least. I honestly think the jump errors were so numerous and bad, it should have been off the podium. I think Tomoki kind of got a little,
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But even then, if you just think about the program too, I don't really get skating to conclave and then doing such a literal interpretation because, the opening voiceover is the Pope is dead.
Yeah, I know that was weird.
Oh, okay. And then I keep calling it prayerography, but he keeps doing these like prayer
Yeah.
hands in the middle of it. And I'm like, so what's the story he's telling here? You know what I mean?
I don't like. I think he's actually trying to give something. Like I get it, but I still think that what the 82 or whatever he got in
Yeah.
components, that's like pretty. That's. I mean, look at some of these scores. Like Kazakhstan for composition gave 8.75. China gave 8.75 for composition. Uzbekistan presentation is a little bit more all over the place, but there's still 8.75s there. Just in general, if you're looking at somebody that's like I don't know. I just feel like the skaters that really excel as far as these things go, Kageyama in skating skills, Amos in more or less skating skills, and also a composition or choreography and presentation. Um, Jason Brown in all three as well. I think that they're just so far ahead that you can't start clumping everyone in when they're getting like 9.0. You cannot give someone like Grassl an 8.75, and it's not
Right.
supposed to be skater to skater comparison, but there's just like such a drop off that Grassl to me is still like maybe a high sevens skater, maybe.
Yeah, I agree
But
with
the
you.
program is really empty. Like the program is empty. And to give us an 8.75 or an 8.5 in composition is just crazy to me because
Yeah.
it's just so
Six of the
so
judges
back
put him
and
first for
forth.
composition when it's a really empty program with
Yeah.
just a bunch of prayer hands. Like
Yeah.
I don't really get that at all.
Yeah. Even in this field was
Yeah.
relatively weak, but this is not it's not indicative, I think, of where he should be. Along those lines, Shaidorov. So again, we talked about this. So Ivan Regini, who's former Italian champion, went to Worlds several times. He's his coach along with Alexei Romanov. He was on Instagram with a slow motion or like a screenshot of the quadlets that got called under rotated in the short program. Finally, after all these cues and all these looking the other way in the short program, they decide with Shaidorov that they're going to give him a full under rotation, which makes his GOE, which I'm sure was like +3 and +4 because the jump was so nice,
So
to
good.
now losing base value and now getting what, like -3. So tons of points, not tons of points, but quite a significant amount of points are lost just from that. One thing I will say though, Shaidorov is now a world silver medalist.
Yeah.
Was he silver? Yeah, he won
Silver.
silver. So he's looking at like potentially pushing Ilya, especially with all these crazy combinations with quad salchow and quad toe loop on the end of his jumps, like as the one that could potentially push him technically. And I feel like the vibes of his programs have kind of gone that sloppy, like carefree, whatever, like
Mhm.
we're gonna do whatever that Ilya does, and he still gets the PCS for. But here, even as world silver medalist, I feel like the judges were sending him a little bit of a message like, hey, your program's really are a little bit too much of nothing and you need to step it up. But I will say, if we're going to make a comparison between those two, just for reference, I think Shaidorov understands the music a little bit more naturally than what Ilya does. And I think he's making the effort to listen to it. I just think that especially the free skate is just a little bit, again, like last year it was weird. This year it's weird again.
I know, right?
And it's not really letting itself set him up to like interpret anything really
Yeah.
because it's just like a cheesy carefree whatever. So
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like your short program, he loses like 7 points because of that Lutz
yeah.
call. Like it's nuts, right? And that would have, I think, put him in the silver or really close to it, if not just for that. But I also feel like his quad toe in the short program, some judges I felt like undermarked it. Like it's
Hmm.
at least a +3 to me with that entry, how
Yeah.
good it is, how smooth it is. It's like it's really good, right? But again, I agree with you. The program's just kind of really not all there. I think the U.S. judge puts him. Oh, the U.S. and the Kazakh judge put him in first in the PCS, which no, I don't think so. That should have been
Uh,
Sato across the board. Do not
yeah.
understand some of this judging.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in the free program, yeah, it felt tired. It felt tired all throughout. And I kind of understand they're trying to do some cool, like,
Hmm.
Fifth Element. I know
Yeah.
it's still a really popular movie. I still put it on every once in a while. I'll put it on to go to sleep just because I'm just, weird like that. But it was a really big miss for me, especially since they're using like multiple versions of the Diva Dance instead of just
Yeah.
the one from the movie. And I don't know why you would do that because I feel
Well,
like you do Fifth Element to kind of get into that nostalgia that people feel about this movie still.
he's
Um,
using Dimash, who is like this out of the, I don't know if you know who Dimash is, but he's
no.
like sings really low, has really like this range is like out of control, like
Mm,
the biggest range in the world. He's Kazakh, and I think it's just like a kind of a nod to him. Dennis 10 was also skating the SOS song. That version that a lot of skaters use is also by Dimash, and Dennis 10 was using that for his free skate in 2018, and then he was going to use
mm,
it again in 2019. So I think that that's just like the tie to like the nationality thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the programs just really have no kind of substance isn't the right word, but there's no depth to them. It's just like he's skating
I
around
agree.
for fun in a practice session almost thing. And like I said, for as big and nice as his jumps are, I do feel like especially in this field and you see what they did with Grassl, they could have easily just bumped up his PCS because no one was really scoring that high. But instead, he's getting it's not bad. It's like there's some 8.25, but there's a lot of sevens in there. I think it's just giving the message like you need to step it up a little bit more, and I think he's
Right.
capable of it.
Yeah, it was surprising to not see him kind of get that world medalist benefit of the doubt a little bit in PCS, where again, some judges were going
Hmm.
into the sevens, or I would have expected it to be like low eights for everybody.
Hmm.
So that was surprising. But the Azerbaijani judge in the free dance put him first in
Free
PCS. Sorry,
skate,
free dance,
yeah,
long
free
program.
skate.
So that's again a
A
choice.
choice. Yeah, a
Uh-huh,
choice.
uh-huh.
But you look, they were really, and I'm not saying it wasn't, I think like they actually finally came to terms with what they needed to do as a panel in the free skate. Because I even said like that quad salto, I'm like, even though it was amazingly huge, it did look like it was slightly
Yeah,
under, and they gave him the cue there. They gave him an edge warning on both the quad flip and the triple flip. He tried this Elia kind of method where he did triple lutz and then tried to do a triple axle on the end of it, and that was clearly short, and then the quad toe at the very end he wiped on. So yeah,
yeah.
and that was under rotated as well. So they really kind of found the buttons for him, if you will, and even so, he was with all those mistakes, he was still relatively close to Grassl. But yeah, I think his skating just needs refined, and I think he has the ability to have more of a serious program than what
Yeah.
he's put out these last 2 years. But still, obviously in contention for an Olympic medal for sure.
And I say if he
Uh,
skates up to how he did at Worlds last year, he's yeah, again, still right up there. That those jumps were so good, so
mhm,
clean, not like today, and,
mhm.
and deserving of high GOE. So we'll really see how he kind of skates back into form as the season goes on. But yeah, I would still say so. He's still a favorite for a medal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Tomoki Hiwatashi is kind of he's another one. I'm just going to preface by saying this really comes down to does the panel want to analyze all of his jumps? Do they want to
Yeah.
review everything? Because if they do push that review button, I think they're going to more often than not see something that's going to knock his score down. It's just kind of been the case with him forever. I will say though that the second quad toe he did, I think looked probably better than anything he's ever done before. That was a big jump.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any doubt on rotation on that. Triple axle, maybe a little bit. Oh, he's the one that did the triple lutz triple flip sequence, and I feel like with that, both jumps looked short. They only
I
called the
agree.
Q on the flip. Um, so tightness kind of pops in a little bit, but I think even though this program was super, super one note and it did not have any rises or falls for the most part, I thought that it was so much better than some of the stuff he's done the last few years. He's really setting himself a high standard to potentially be right in there with Andrew Torgashev for that third spot, which would be a huge kind of upset if you looked at what was going on prior to this season. But he's consistently put out good performances. He is skating once again next week in Skate Canada, so we'll see how he does there. But again, I mean, I think that sadly, I think the thing with him. And his PCS, by the way, is all over the place, like literally all over the place. He has PCS from fourth all the way down to 10th. Um, but like the thing that's gonna come down to, and I'm not saying that USFS is shady, but like if they don't want him to be on the Olympic team, they will find a way to review jumps and find things. I guarantee
Yeah.
that will be what happens at nationals because that's what was, I feel like that was what was tried to be attempted in 2018 when things started to go a little haywire with the results that they wanted, and it kind of backfired anyways. But I still think that they're going to be trigger happy with some of these rotation calls at nationals. All the same though, like really decent skating for him, and I'm happy to see that he's finally, after all these years, he was World Junior Champion and then he looked like he was going to be up there. He never really got up into that top level. It looks like this coaching change and this spending time in Japan, it's really kind of benefiting him for the better.
So like in fifth was Boyang Jin, trying to make another comeback. I greatly disagree with this placement from the short program to the
Hmm.
long program. He needs to
Hmm.
be like 20 points at least lower
Yeah,
just for what he put out.
yeah.
I don't know if you want to start, but I
I just the thing for me is I do not know a skater in recent history that has had this badly mismatched programs constantly. I don't know what Joey Russell and Lori, was it Lori Nickel that did one of the programs? I don't
I
know if
think
it
Lauren
was
Hinkle did
just,
the free. Yeah.
I think she did too. Between the two of them, the last few years, and I know he's repeating programs, he has had the most like furthest away type of style of program that I would ever give to him. 10 years ago, almost, yeah, 10 years ago, he was skating to Spider-Man. And because his skating is so, below average, let's say his basics are not there, he was kind of like hiding everything with the charm that he had. These programs don't have any charm. He literally spends his
Yeah.
entire time looking at the ice. He literally does not acknowledge one beat of the music. He does not, there is no choreography basically. You try to make him do a twizzle or any kind of difficult 1 foot edge work. He's like loose and kind of stumbling, and you see it in his step sequences. There's just
Yeah.
really
Really
nothing to
bad.
offer. And it's like I understand he's had all these injuries and he keeps coming back from injury. But for me, if I'm on this panel, giving him an 8, 7.75, 7 point, anything in the sevens is outlandish to me. For composition, I would go like in the fours probably. I'm not
Yeah.
even kidding. For presentation, you might even have to go lower than that because there is truly, he looks at the
Yeah,
ice.
like it wasn't as bad in the short program, but in the long
Yeah.
program, it was so bad because
Yeah.
I just saw him do this the entire time. He
Yeah.
just keeps looking
Yeah.
down, looking down. I'm like, no, right? And even then, like, I think ever since he went back to China and stopped training in Canada, he's just stopped working on skating skills because they've
Mhm.
gotten
Yeah.
worse. They've gotten
Yeah.
worse and worse and worse. I think this is worse than when he was medaling at Worlds back in like
Oh, it was. It
2000, whatever.
100% it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
And so like I don't really understand why the Chinese Fed keeps giving him all these opportunities and chances and keeps pushing him, especially over other skaters with much better basics, much better
Mhm.
PCS, because he doesn't even have the jumps anymore. It
Yeah.
made sense when he could do a quad Lutz.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's nowhere close to doing a quad Lutz right now. He's struggling doing the triple Lutz cleanly. It's
Yeah.
this. I'm
I
really
really
not
I
seeing it.
just like it's so bad to come and just like trash a skater. But just for what he's putting out there, the
Yeah.
the
No,
PCS
he's
is
been better.
outlandish. It is so unexplainable. The skating skills too. Do they not see how he struggles like on the step sequences, how he just has no control over he has no mastery over his blades. There's no sweet spot, there's no nothing. It's just all focused in on really landing those jumps, and that's all there is to his skating. And to get a PCS with 75 PCS, I mean, really, if you combine all of those, I would say I would have it probably somewhere in the 50s. And I'm not even being like
Yeah.
even a little bit facetious. Like this is just he needs to be at the bottom of the barrel or close to it because that's just how his skating is. But clumping him in with, who is it? What's the skater? Oh, Roman Sadovsky is probably going to go out and get like a 78. So
I
just
know, right?
between the two of them, it's just like I don't understand. I will never understand. He's obviously now so far and away ahead of Daiwei Dai, which makes me upset because I think that Daiwei had a terrible competition. I'm not going to defend him in any way, but I think that he, much like Han Yan, is the more interesting skater and the more well-rounded skater when it comes to, this Olympic cycle and determining who's actually going to the Olympics. I just don't. Once again though, I just think that the programs are such a mismatch. I don't understand the choices at all. We need to move on to somebody else because I'm just going to keep
I know.
talking.
You can go on all
Well,
day, but like
we're
the
going to talk about Vladimir Litvintsev. Okay, so him, like, he off the ice, he's always on his social media posting about how he likes to cut music for skaters. At least that's what it seems like, because he's always posting about stuff like that. And then he always has these weird free skates, like super. This Joker free skate he's done before, at least in parts of this program he's done for 2 years. He's done this program, so now this is the third year that he's basically doing the same thing. It's weird. It starts off weird. It's very like cheesy choreography. The jumps are good. Like I'm not gonna say like he has like a personality at least behind what he's doing, but I much prefer to see like the more traditional side of him.
same.
And he's
Um,
had some really standout programs with that style.
And even then, it's like the interesting stuff just happens in moments, but most of the program's completely uninteresting. Like
Yeah.
it starts with the whole really bloody shirt, which is crazy,
Yeah.
but okay, whatever, it makes
Yeah.
sense. And then the
Yeah.
way he just starts the program, just kind of chilling by the judges,
Yeah.
pantomiming smoking a cigarette, like sure, right, okay, cool, interesting, but then it just kind of like goes away. I don't really
Mm-hmm.
feel like he's really into the character at all for most of this program. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like the opening and then the ending. In the very middle, it's just kind
Mm-hmm.
of like nothing. I'm just skating through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, good jumps. I think that's what really landing those two quads. It really does matter. Because I much prefer the skater who placed below him, who I thought was
Yeah.
really undermarked.
Yeah. Jacob Sanchez, so
Yeah.
he coming off he was just off the podium at Junior Worlds last year, but he did win the Junior Grand Prix final. So this is him stepping up into seniors. Maybe an outside chance at making the Olympic team. Uh he's a pleasant skater. He's very well rounded. I know that already this season, for example, he's had to switch his free skate. He did have a dune free skate to
Oh.
start the season, and it was a really bulky outfit, and
Oh.
it just didn't really work out that well. So he's down. He's now has a different program. I think that his basics, like in this competition, if you're going to look at basics, I think that he should be right up there at the top.
Yep.
This was not a strong competition of skaters for the most, for the whole, and I would say that he's one of those stronger all-around skaters that they had. But looking at the marks, they don't
Yeah, he got
really.
hosed on PCS in my opinion.
Yeah,
His skating skills are really good. He got a lower skating skills score than Boyang.
he has the same exact PCS as Boyang, and it's like night and day
It's
between
absurd. It's
what they're.
absurd.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't make
totally
any
absurd.
sense.
Yeah,
Any
it makes
sense.
zero sense when there should be at least a 10-point difference, if not 20 or 30, right? Like,
Mm. Yeah,
if we're being
yeah,
honest.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, so like I think that was really the biggest thing. He just doesn't have that reputation, and the judges just didn't feel comfortable or didn't think their colleagues would score him
hmm
highly, right? No one
hmm
really took that chance and
yeah,
gave him that 8.5 or something in skating skills. Like they could have,
yeah,
but no one really did it.
yeah.
And
I mean, both programs had mistakes though. He had like
yeah,
a golden opportunity, especially considering he's not really going for anything too difficult, jumps wise.
yeah,
And he could have gotten through these programs a lot more cleanly than he did. He ended up there was a single Salchow at the end of his free skate, for example.
yeah.
Um, but even so, 148 in the free skate, that's a pretty big drop off from the top four and what Tomoki scored. So I don't, again, he's another one I don't think that he's really in the picture for an
He's
Olympic
not. He doesn't have a
spot.
quad, and you really do need at least
Yeah,
one. But I don't see the
yeah,
USFSS putting someone aside from Jason Brown
yeah,
on the team who doesn't have a quad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyways, this is his first Grand Prix event. This is, as of right now, it is his only Grand Prix event and a very respectable showing. I mean, he should have
Yeah,
easily been ahead of probably the two in front of him, to be honest with you.
I
So he
agree.
should have probably been fourth place in this comp or fifth place in this competition. Um,
100% agree.
Yeah. And then Junhwan Cha, I just have
Yeah.
to say, he is one of my favorite skaters. I think he has such a presence. He's such a pretty like stature, just hits these lines, the best Ina Bauer I've ever seen. I could go on and on about the good things about his skating, some of the bad things that Axel just goes on and on and on before he finally jumps up into it. He's another one here, especially him. I feel like in the free skate, just I did not really like this program for him, and I felt
Yeah.
like he was not into it at all. He usually, even if he's lets the program fall apart, he still can hold it together as far as the components and the emotion goes. But this was really just he
Yeah.
was not invested in this at all, and it was a pretty bad skate. I'm actually surprised he didn't fall even lower in the standings. You know, but he's had his skate issues. He's had issues much like Alyssa probably in the sense that he's not super comfortable with his equipment right now, but just nothing really remarkable here. And he is somebody that I could gush about for days and
Yeah,
days
for
when
real.
he's
I agree with
good.
you. I think both programs are a total miss. I agree with you in that just go back to James Bond for the long program.
Yeah,
Again,
that's what I
it's the
think.
year of the
Yeah.
reused program. Everyone's doing
Yeah.
it. Just get on it. Maybe it'll
That
be
so that
easier.
that program though, he usually always finishes his program with the same choreographic sequence more or less. That Inabauer becomes such a big part because he
Mhm.
does almost a full circle. The James Bond program just hits that choreograph. The whole program, the way it builds, he won a world silver medal with this program. I think that he probably. I'm not a big fan of like everyone returning to old programs just because of one bad outing, but I just don't like. I don't. It's Moulin Rouge. Like I said earlier in this episode, there's no one that's really. I've never been like, wow, that's such an amazing interpretation of Moulin Rouge.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I'm going to think about this, who was probably closest to catching the vibes right? It's probably Ashley Wagner back in 2016,
Hmm.
just because, she does a
Nah.
great Satine, I think. But I don't even think like she hits it out of the park. I think it's just the
Yeah.
best one we've seen. I
Yeah.
I wasn't even a fan of Virtue and Juarez. I thought it was just way too common for them. They're way better
Yeah.
than Moulin Rouge,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, but here, the short program to me too was a really big miss because it's Rain in Your Black Eyes, and we
Hmm.
just saw Kageyama do that. And his is
Well,
probably
everyone's done it, but
everyone has,
Kageyama
but in terms of like
really,
singles,
yeah, yeah,
it's the best version of that program in singles
hmm
by far. And he
yeah,
has just amazing skating skills, especially that
yeah,
step sequence.
yeah.
I still remember the first time I watched Kageyama's version, and I literally start crying during the step sequence. It's just so beautiful. Whereas here, Junhwan just feels like it drags on, and I just the whole time I just kept wanting to go to YouTube and search
Watch some other
Kageyama.
one. Yeah.
You know what I
I just
mean?
I
Like,
think I think everyone was out of it, and we keep saying this,
yeah,
and this has been a very negative review so far of almost everyone. But for me, it just doesn't. It's for someone that I like so much as a skater.
right.
This neither of these did really anything to me for me, and I wish that he would consider maybe a change, but we'll
Yeah.
see. I mean, he just doesn't look like he's 100% as it is,
I
so
mean,
we
we
can't
love
really kick
Shun
him when he's
Sato. We were
down.
very positive on
Yeah.
Shun.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the
And
rest of the
Jacob
field,
Sanchez. Yeah.
yeah, right, yeah, exactly.
And
But
Tomoki.
but the rest of the field's a bit of a mess though,
Yeah.
Sota, Dennis, and then the other
Dennis, I
Chinese
mean, I don't
skater.
know. Dennis is just we don't know really what's going on with his training situation. He left Lambiel. I thought he was training with Francois Pitot coach. I thought he was with Romain Ponsard, but it seems like he said he's still in Switzerland and all will be
Oh,
revealed
really?
soon or some of whatever he always mysteriously he's very like anti-social media, doesn't really have any outlets. So it's just like the comments that he gives in the quick quotes or the press. So I don't really know what his training situation is. He came here not really looking completely with it, so I'm not going to kick him while he's down.
Yeah,
He needs to figure out what's going on with
that's
him.
true.
Sh-
And then
Um, well, Soda, I wish he would have held it together, but let's talk just really quickly. There were two instances in his free skate where, first of all, the quad toe, like it's like he misstepped and he had to reset to go back into the quad toe. And we saw what happened with that. It was like a disastrous fall and under rotated. Then later on in the program, he completely skated right through like he missed the LUTs, so he didn't even try to put that in, so he's down one jump element. What I was interested in, because it used to be if the intention was there to jump, then whether you jumped or not, you got called one of your
it
blocks.
helped. Yeah, yes.
So the best example I can give is Jason Brown in 2014 in his Olympics free skate. He went to step up into the axle. He decided he wasn't like properly set, so he didn't, but then he turned and he did another one. But because that first one was considered like an attempt, he got he got a block there, and then that last axel got no credit.
Right.
So
And so it's inconsistent calling here to me too, because the same thing happens in the free skate to the quad toe and Lutz later on, right?
mhm,
The quad toe where he sets it up, he messes up, he resets, does it, falls, right?
mhm.
They allow that to count, that second attempt to count,
Yeah.
and you see a score here. But whereas the Lutz, it occupies a box.
Well, see, and I was sure that at least one of them was going to do that, and you're right. Like the Lutz wasn't even as much of an attempt, though. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
the toe loop was ready to go up. What I thought would happen is they would put a T, and then they would have
And then
the
have
quad
another toe
toe.
loop right after.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's what I thought was going to happen, and then he'd if he would have jumped like as according to plan, then that triple flip double axel sequence wouldn't have been there at all. Like it would
Exactly. It
just
wouldn't have counted.
you
Or
know
it would have been there,
s-
but with no value.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it is very interesting. I mean, it's interesting because even though he got the jump up, the intention was still there to jump before he did. So I don't know if there's some caveat to the rules that we don't know about where it's like as long as it goes up within the same reset or
It's like
whatever. I don't
there
know.
might be different rules in Paris, but I still remember Kristen Moore, Towers and Mariano, they do something like that with a lift where they're going to set up for I
Yeah,
think it's the
yeah,
last
yeah.
lift and they have to restart it and it just
Hmm.
zero occupies a box.
Yeah,
They don't count the lift at all.
yeah,
So there's something weird here, but we'll have to clarify it. But I just
yeah,
did not agree with some of this calling here.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then we mentioned Daiwei Dai. I really like him. He just had a disastrous competition. This
yeah,
kind of shuts the door on him even being in the picture for the
it
Olympics
really does.
for China. So it will be Boyang, and hopefully he gets a little spark by the time he goes. So we are finally into, well, actually wrapping up the men. I mean, I guess the biggest thing is, the judging is just very inconsistent. I think that Grassl, more often than not, gets away with some pretty generous calls,
Yeah.
especially when you're considering Shaidorov's call in the short program, which is just,
Yeah, it's just insane, right? And
yeah,
again, even from the technical panel, even to like the judges, just really inconsistent. Like I'm just looking at Vasilyev's PCS in the free program
yeah.
rankings of first through 10.
Well, I have to say, I can understand the skating skills because I've seen
No, but
in
overall,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
okay.
they're all over the place, but so skating skills, I can even in skating skills, he's from first to tenth, even on that mark.
Oh yeah,
Um, but I can see where he's high up on that. This is a repeat program from last year. I like it, but I also know it's empty, and I feel like match that with him being kind of out of sorts or whatever going on with him. He didn't really give that charm to the program that you might see generally. So I could see where the judges didn't really know what to do. And it actually looks like, for the most part, they were all pretty consistent, except for two of them. The Japanese judge and the Korean judge just were not having it, but the rest of them more or less were suggesting that he's in the top five here, at least as far as PCS go.
yeah, true.
Um, but yeah, other than that, I mean, just very unremarkable competition. I think Shaidorov, yeah, should have been, even with his mistakes, I don't know actually, but I think that just based on Grassl's looking the other way, that kind of by default suggests that Shaidorov should have been higher. We'll
Yeah, I
see
agree.
moving forward what goes on with them. All right, let's go into the pairs. So overall thoughts, yeah, I mean, the one thing that just stands out obviously is this: we have to get some kind of clarification or some admitting that they're just flat out wrong, because it just does not make sense to me, and it's something that I picked up just from seeing the in real time. So I just don't understand how it's not picked up by more people, or just like kind of addressed. But Metelkina and Berulava. So this team, I knew based on their scores from earlier this year. I didn't see their programs, but I'm like, this team is really setting themselves up to potentially be in a three-way race, what I feel like, between them and the Japanese and the Germans for the Olympic title. That's how much of a
I
step
agree with
up
you.
they've had this year. The short program, it's bolero. It starts out a little like flamenco, just strumming on the guitar, and then it really gets into like traditional bolero, as we all know. But both programs this year, well, let's start with that. They're a step up. I feel like the cheesy factor that they had, I feel like the lack of choreography last year, besides that jump rope and the free skate, that's like the only choreography. I feel like they've really stepped up this year, and they look like they're Olympic ready. They are so technically proficient. They
Yeah,
are old school in the sense that they have the lines, they have the matching exactly that we knew from the Russians for so long. they are just so prepared. They kind of, they had a few mistakes in the free skate. They weren't perfect, but their scores are massive considering. And I think that we really have to throw them in as one of the top
It's
three.
the
And this
element
is the
quality
podium.
is just so good, and that's
Yeah.
really what's setting them apart.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about even just contrasting to the Japanese, right?
Hmm.
You go from like kind of just really fast and whatever, no lines, no whatever, to this team was just all finish,
Yeah.
all lines, and now they're inserting more and more of that artistry and personality, and this is a team I didn't enjoy 2 years ago, and I greatly enjoyed them this competition. It's just everything from like the side by side jump, side by side spins, everything's close together. The landing on that triple flip is like world class.
Yeah.
Like that back outside jet spiral position, so
Thank
so
God they're
so
allowed to do a
good.
different dust spiral this year, remember? Because they were the ones
Or
last year that
inside,
were like
yeah.
that were struggling so bad through getting down low enough. But I agree, like this is just so old school, like traditional, and we kind of miss
Hmm.
that in today's skating. And um uh, it's not like I'm overwhelmed with emotion watching their skating, but I do see the quality of everything.
Yeah.
Now that said, you get into the free skate and he is so lucky he did not wipe out on the first lift that they did. I mean,
The footwork was bad in the short program too, you know,
but
because he
you
doesn't
you
wipe out as much.
I don't know if you noticed, like even from me rewatching just really quickly, the lift that almost was very, very, bad. He steps like so far out when he's moving, like it looks like his foot placement, but it's true of every single lift that he does. So I don't
Yeah.
know what that
He's
technique
on
is.
his heels for some reason
Yeah,
on the blades.
yeah.
Like, and I noticed on the short program really bad. And then you clearly hear in the long, you know, he totally almost just falls and drops her on the lasso lift. So like that was just like nuts. I don't know how he saved that. I'm sure we all collectively gasped at the same
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I thought it was a really strong skate. That and, you know, the fall on that second trip double axle from her.
Yeah, from her. But I mean,
Um,
they still got all the points for doing the three jumps.
Exactly,
So
right, because they
yeah,
got that base value in.
yeah,
Again, they did a great
yeah,
job of doing that.
yeah.
You know, I agree with you. You could see this is a team with a lot of upward momentum. You know, I felt like before the conventional wisdom was that like Conti and Machi were kind of like that third place-ish
Hmm.
team.
Hmm.
Not anymore.
Hmm.
Definitely not anymore. I think they're now out of the top three. Maybe they're now like a top five-ish team if they skate really well.
Hmm.
But they just haven't made the same level of improvements, you know.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I hear have the Georgians really up there. And like you're saying, if you're talking about the team event,
Bronze medal, like they
yeah,
have to be, it probably will still be pretty close with, I think, Italy, but if you're looking at how strong they're coming on, and Igadze, if he can skate the short program and really score up there too, I mean, it's just looking in all ways, it's looking like it's Georgia's bronze medal to lose. And I
yep.
said that 2 years ago. I thought this was what was going to end up happening. But
Especially
I
with
think it's
Davis and
playing
Smoke
out.
and improving so
Also
much this year
improving.
from
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. Mhm.
Yep. So yeah, Metelkina Berulava, I mean, they didn't really run away with the free skate, but overall this competition was theirs. Conti and Matsi, so I know you really like them. I think that you think that their presentation is like a little bit, more standout than most of the teams. I think for me, I like both of their programs. Their free skate is just about as predictable as I think as anything. They've kind of gotten
Yeah.
stuck in this one genre of free skates. They're known for this now, so the free skate
Mhm.
doesn't really give me anything that I'm not used to, but I like their overall kind of flair. And she has a really big personality, he also has a really big personality. They give us style, they give us like a snappiness to
Intensity.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
too.
like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's refreshing. But they would have to be, I think, completely spot on through a
Right.
competition to be in there
Because they
for.
have weaker skating skills, they have weaker finish than some of the other competitors here,
Yeah.
except you know the Japanese in terms of like
Hmm.
finish. But like, yeah, so you know they're not really the best at anything, and I think that's one of the things that really draws the or pulls them back when you think about all the things that like are their strengths. You can always point to some other team, right? Especially in the
Yeah.
field today. And but
Yeah.
I do really like them, but it was easier to like them the most, like, you know, in 2023.
I mean,
When the
because they
field
were
wasn't as
so
strong, for
well,
real.
I
Like
mean,
when the field
but
wasn't as strong.
they stepped it up so much that year and they were just
Yep.
so excited by everything. I remember like in the Grand Prix when they started getting those big results, they were just so genuinely shocked about everything that was happening. And that was a breath of fresh air because yes, that was a very weak time. And it's not that they're still a good team. They're a world medalist team again. Just when you're looking at, I think that the overall strengths, like I said, I think it's going to come down to they have to be absolutely spot on to be in
Right.
the
And they're just
picture.
not consistent. They're really
Yeah.
not consistent as a pair. And if they were just putting out good performance after good performance, they'd have a different argument. I could see that where even if they're not the best at anything,
Yeah. But
they're
this was a
just so
pretty
con
good this competition wasn't that bad though.
yeah, it
Honestly,
wasn't.
it was pretty good for them. And,
Mhm.
lots of mistakes, lots of little mistakes, hands down on the throws, stuff like that, but more or less to start their season like this, pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
Sui Han, so we've already talked about their lift issue and how they should not be the bronze medalist just based on that one
But other
element alone.
issues aside from even just that.
Yeah. So, you know, I heard that they came to the unofficial practice this week, early in the week, and they had spotters for things like their twists and their lifts. So that really made me say, I don't think that they're ready. This is going to be embarrassing. That's what I thought. If you would have asked me 3 days ago, I would have said, oh, like, why are they even skating? Did better than I expected. It's clear that they haven't been skating together too long.
Yeah.
It's clear that his body is probably on its literal last chance, and this is it. Um, the short program. Okay, so we were so excited to see what Lori would come up with them. I remember when Rain in Your Black Eyes was their free skate, and it was like a really standout skate, I think at like four continents or something. And I just watched that program over and over and over again. The flowing of the throw triple flip and just the how their choreographic elements, everything was just so good. I loved everything about the program. They're coming back from almost nothing here, and it really shows to me. Like it really shows that their standard is just so low right now. So I have to keep that in mind because I know what their potential is. I just don't know with him being 33 and his issues with his body. I don't know if that's a level that they can attain again.
Right.
But just okay, so things that we saw. So in the short program, we were worried about his jumps, but she's the one. Toe pick was just all over when she went into the triple toe. Wasn't even close. She had a hard fall on that. Um, Triple Lutz, the throw, I mean, it wasn't as effective as it once was. I'm sure they can get back to that. She held
And they
on
did a
to
flip
it.
before. They haven't done a Lutz before. So that was surprising to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But it was really good. But again, you saw it like less amplitude. I don't know what 100% that issue is, but less distance too.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
slower
yeah,
going into it.
yeah. I mean,
It's
I think
just
everything's just tentative because
everything's
they're
that.
not.
Everything's that level. The
Yeah,
same thing with the
yeah.
twist. Even if it's clean, it's not that
It's
wow.
not
It's
so
not
high. It's
right.
more,
It's
they
not
were
like you could
always
do
a
a
little,
quad level. Yeah.
yeah, they're always a little twisted on it when it goes up,
Hmm.
but now it's like looser. I think everything with time could get back to where it was. I'm not holding my breath that it will
Yeah.
because it's so soon to the Olympics.
But
But
like
yeah,
my
so
biggest problem was that their PCS was really inflated for what they were doing. A
I
lot
think so too.
slower, weren't skating
I
as
think
close
so too.
together. Programs are really empty, a lot simpler, yet you still have judges here giving them, their reputation nines,
Yeah,
like they would have
yeah,
given them 4 years ago. Like
yeah.
this PCS maybe should have been in the sevens.
Yeah, I mean I don't think that's harsh either. I mean they're coming back to a level that's nowhere near where they were. You can't judge them on what they once were. This is what
Exactly.
the same thing with Chock and Bates. You cannot score them on what you know they will be later in the season. You if they're clumsy and they're slow and everything, then you score them on what that is. Same thing with Sui Han. So yeah, basically with the short program, it's that I don't think it was that bad. My dream was that they come back with their 2016 short program because I think that is absolutely
And
the
that's what I feel
best.
like this is trying to recreate,
I think
especially
so
ending
too.
on the
Yeah.
step sequence, but it's just not
Yep.
as effective. Just go back to the
Yep.
2016 program.
Yep.
It's fine. Again,
Yep.
it's the year of the reuse program. No one
Yep.
cares.
No
And it's
one's
been
gonna
so
care.
long, most people forgot about it.
Yep, exactly. And then so the free skate, I think there's some interesting bits of choreography. I just don't feel like it's outward moving at all. I really question how
Same.
many times they've actually been able to get through a full free
Yeah.
program kind of run through because they just don't. I understand that they're still coming back and they need time, but it just looks like it was super rough the whole way through. Um,
and it was, yeah, just considering again, it's a longer program, and and it felt that it felt like they were getting really tired really quickly in this
hmm
program. It just dragged
hmm
right after right after the lasso lift, the
hmm
first one, or
hmm
only one actually.
Well, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that death spiral position, so bad.
yeah,
It was so bad. Like I was just like, are you taking cues from like Diana Stellato? Like I just did not really understand that. I know
yeah.
that they used to do a really great one. This wasn't that. Again, twist throws were good, not the level they used to be, but still really good. But I was just not into this at all, and it could have just been because again, it was the end of a long night for
Yeah.
us. But
No,
it
I saw potential. I saw like little glimpses, but it was really
Mhm.
it was on like isolated choreography that really had nothing to do with the
Mhm.
program or the music. I felt like it didn't really the program didn't really expand outwards. They didn't really get the ice coverage. They didn't really have the speed. They didn't have the assurance on any of the elements. I know they need a few like they from now till the Olympics, they have 3 months. So let's see what they can do. Finishing third here with a little bit of a gift because of that lift being called. They have an outside chance at the Grand Prix final, but I don't feel like that's going to happen for them. So
Right.
now I feel like they need to go back and really, really just hit things hard. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. But another thing that's super interesting here about all of this, with this finishing third, like I said with the men or whatever I think it was the ice dancers. This competition and Chinese nationals are what are determining who's going to the Olympics. So if this competition would have been judged properly, even properly in the sense of just not calling that lift, then the other team would be leading the way right now, and then Chinese nationals would be even more
Right.
importance, you
Because
know?
you could say PCS is like subjective, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I definitely
yeah,
think they're worthy of a 9.25 in skating skills still. Okay, sure,
yeah,
whatever. You can
yeah,
argue that all day.
yeah.
Not invalidating the lift in the short program is an egregious error, and it's black and white. There
hmm
is no middle ground. It's just a
hmm
wrong call, especially if you're
Yeah,
just reading the rules as written, right?
yeah.
Like yeah. So I totally agree with you there.
So, I mean, even so here that the scores were pretty close. It was like what 6 or 7 points between the two of them. Um, Zhang and
Yeah, that
Huang, who
invalidating
are
that
in
lift
fourth,
puts
yeah.
their compatriots into third
But
place, right?
even so, like nationals is still going to be very important now because it's close enough.
Yeah.
Zhang and Huang we saw at the Olympic qualifier, so we don't really need to go full detail into them. I think that they have a lot of positives. I think that they have big
Same.
skating. I think Sui Han are going for like a lot of the elements need to look more like this team for Sui Han, but right now they're not.
Right.
Alyona Savchenko did the short,
Oh,
and
really?
then
Okay, you can see that.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
good.
and Benoit did the free skate, and he actually pulls some of Aliona's choreography, which
I know, I saw
a
that
lot of
too.
teams
Yeah,
are
yeah,
now.
with the lift.
Yeah. But they're really this is a
Really
young
good.
team. They
Yeah.
really stepped up. I mean, they essentially went to this Olympic qualifier knowing very well that they're probably doing this for Sui and Han, but now it's a little bit of a competition. Of course, Chinese nationals, whatever result they want, they're going to get by some way. So it's really not as dramatic as we're making it sound. But
Yeah.
if for some reason Sui and Han just really can't make it through because of his body or whatever, then this team is very, very decent on their own. Um, Another
Yeah, a lot
team
of
just
upside
yeah.
here. I really enjoyed their skating. You could just see kind of like they have great partnering skills. They have great musicality. You can tell that like they're really in tune with one another and the music. I always felt like they were performing at some level. Like so I'm really hopeful for them in the future too. So
Mhm,
if we don't see them in the Olympics this cycle, I really hope they survive and stick it
mhm,
out
yeah.
4 years and are able to like
Mhm,
really do well at the next Olympics. You can see it. It's just gotta fix those individual jumps and the
yeah.
side by sides, just like most pairs and especially the Chinese teams.
Yeah. So we'll really quickly go through the other teams. One of the interesting things that was happening in this competition, by virtue of some of the other teams withdrawing, is we got three Italian teams, the three that are fighting for two spots to the Olympics. And because this was a head-to-head competition, it would have been used probably very heavily in this point system that Italy uses. But Gorizia and Beccari, because they withdrew from the free skate, there's really no comparison there. But I will say Gilardi and Ambrosini They had a nice comeback in the free skate. It's always going to be a question of those individual side by side jumps. She flings herself up into those double axles. They're so high, but they're like she never knows where she's at, I feel like. So it's always one of those cases. They're doing side by side double salchow, I think. So the points aren't really being earned there, but otherwise they had a pretty good skate, and it looks like, they had a 10-point lead almost in the short program over the other team. So I feel like they're leading the way now for that second spot.
Yeah.
And then you had the Germans. And we'll talk about just the free skate, for example. They're skating to "I Do Anything for Love" by Meatloaf, which very classic song, but it's the
Yeah.
whole song throughout the whole thing. Um, I love the music choice. I just feel like they could have
Same.
done something else with it. Yeah, but this is a team that was like fifth in the world or sixth in the world a few years ago, and they've been on the European podium. So these results that they've had lately aren't that great. But she did like skate over his fingers earlier in the summer, and he got back on the
Yeah.
ice a lot sooner than he was supposed to. So I don't know how far along they are in their training. They didn't skate that bad. I just feel that
You can see the weakness in the lifts really
yeah,
badly in this competition. So that's probably what's affected them the most when, for his injury that then he didn't take the proper time to fully rest
yeah,
that he was bragging about on Instagram, which
yeah,
was
yeah.
don't do that. Don't make your doctor upset.
Hmm.
But yeah, every lift here to me, like I don't really even see positive geo in it. I know some judges really tried to find these moments of positive GOE, but no, that
Yeah.
really was what was holding them back.
Yeah. And then finally, just unfortunately, Katie
Yeah.
McBeath and Daniel Parkman doing back-to-back assignments as well. Had a great short program, almost 70 points. It looked like they were putting themselves in contention as far as US skating goes. And then the free skate was just like so off from the beginning. There's really not a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Just there's almost everything went wrong. Finished
Hmm.
last in the free skate, dropped all the way to last after, being fourth and with a decent score in the short program. So. Unfortunately, I don't think we can really take anything out of this. Maybe they're tired from their last event, but it was just really an off day for them.
Ultimately, that wraps up the competition. So like I know we want to try to find moments of the competition, but like it's hard for me to pick one differently than last week in that there were so many, whereas this
Yeah,
week I'm just kind of like, oh, like I really can't pick anything. Um, Maybe it's just multiple triple axels in the women's event is
yeah,
kind of like my
yeah.
just general moment, or you calling out the incorrect call in the pairs event, like
Yeah, and
as it
me
was
like
happening.
emailing and messaging every single
And then,
person to
and
try to
then
get
literally
something
like,
done about
will you
it.
please see this? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
I don't know for you. What do you think?
I think Zingas and Kolesnik just surprised me so much
Yeah.
in a field that was just like otherwise pretty disappointing, and you know a lot of the top skaters in dance had at least one program that wasn't so good. So they stood out in that they got through it, and I think they were more than deserving of silver, which is a huge surprise. Uh, and then yeah, other than that, I don't really know of anything that's like really, really surprising me. It was all the competition was one that I think that most people want to forget about. Most of the skaters will want to forget about, and they'll just continue on with their season. And I hope that we see improvements from all of them, based
Mhm.
on what they showed here. Or in the case of Chock and Bates, I don't want them to just completely fall by the wayside, but I think they need to make big changes as well. Um, and we'll see how it all plays out. Just the competition was what it was. We still managed to talk almost 2 hours, I think, about it, but yeah,
We have problems, man.
yeah.
Yeah, and so next week is Skate Canada,
Skate
and we'll,
Canada
we'll see more and more of the teams we're actually just really waiting to see, like in ice dance. We're going to see
goes
Gillis and
Poirier.
Poirier, yeah. We're going to see Haas and Volodin, and then Amina Kai, see if she can repeat that. And she's up against like again Isabeau again. So that's not kind of some bad luck for Isabeau to be two events with this kind of surprise breakout
Yeah,
skater. So yeah, I'm really excited for Skate Canada. So hopefully a more appropriate time zone too will just make it that much better for us,
yeah,
anyways, in North
yeah.
Americans
We
in
still
Florida.
haven't. I mean, we still haven't gone to bed, and this is now skating started almost 12 hours ago. So
I
yeah,
took like a 2 hour nap right before.
so did I, but that's not enough.
No, it's not. No, it's
The
not.
things we do for skating. All right, as
Yeah.
always, we got to wrap this up because I'll
Yep.
find something else to go on a tangent about. For now, until Skate Canada next week. And as always, comments, everything. Our last video got a lot of opinions and comments, and we love it. We
Which
love
we love.
responding
Yeah.
to
Thank you.
everything. And even if you don't agree with us, tell us why you don't agree with us. It doesn't have to be, we agree with you about everything, but
Yeah.
we
It's
enjoy
not
all
fun
that
if
stuff.
everyone disagrees with us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So give us all your comments. For now, enjoy the rest of your day. Get some sleep if you're in the United States like we are and we just stayed up all night. But yeah, let's hope for a better week of skating next week. Thank you
Okay.
for watching.
Bye, everyone.